Good evening, everybody. I'm Glenn.
I'm Xander.
And this is the Friday 3D Printing Channel Hangout. Welcome. We're glad that you're all here. And I'm not going to run down the list of people in the chat because there's a whole bunch of you, and you've been chatting now for almost an hour. So Xander and I are hosting tonight. Our topic tonight is how to manage large projects, both 3D printing and a little bit outside of that. I mean, we don't want to get into crazy things like how you manage doing the project of changing your brake discs on your car or anything, but mainly, you know, with 3D printing and you know, woodworking projects, electronic projects, and sometimes when all of that stuff combines. So let's go down the list and have them introduce themselves to you guys. And let's start with you, John.
Hi, I'm John. What do you do it? You can find me on Twitter, you_do_it, and on Instagram, you.do.it. On Facebook, I'm Rigor on Affetsid, and on Xbox, I'm also Rigor on Affetsid. I do live streaming gaming. I build a lot of things, woodworking, CNC, 3D printing, anything to make something. I'll find or utilize any technology to do it. 3D printing, I've been involved in it for over a year now, and with everyone here and F3DPCH accepting me as a member, I'm really appreciative. And to show my support, I've been creating a banner. So I created the F3DPCH banner that was shown at MRF. I'm working on banner number 2. So send me your headshot and channel art if you want to be showcased on it. If you don't, I'll probably find you anyway, but it'll save me time if you send that to me. And the best way to get it to me is DM. The project I'm working on right now is Rosie. So this is one of my blocks out of 50 that I've printed so far. I'm going to keep going. That's it for me. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, John. That takes us over to you, Ross.
Hi, I'm Ross from the YouTube channel, Geared On For What. I build robots, gearboxes, and other weird stuff with gears. You could find me on YouTube/C Geared On For What without the question mark. I don't know what else I'm supposed to say.
Well, I mean, if you're pleased with that, we're pleased with that. That's all right. You told us who we are, and that's what's important. So that takes us over to you, Richard.
Hello, I'm Richard with the ZDIM channel. I've been away for almost 6 months. It's hard to believe it's been that long. But my focus is 3D printing for model trains. And of late, I have moved to SLA printing and learning the ins and outs of it because it's quite a bit different than dealing with FDM printing. So I'm on, well, all the details should be showing up down below here, but Facebook at ZDIM, although it's better to go over to 3D printing for model trains. And for all my other links, if you just go to my website, zdim.com, you'll find links to all the other stuff that I'm into.
Thanks, Richard. It's good to have you back, and you look good. So that you got to be getting healthier, and that's good. We were worried about you there for a while.
Well, I got my hair cut. I think Xander's up next for his.
yeah, he's getting to be a little bit of a mop head. So, all right, and ladies and gentlemen, we introduce to you the Midnight Giant. Now, do you prefer Michael or Mike?
It doesn't matter either way. Usually, everyone I talk to is just Mike. I am the Midnight Giant. I like to print big things, BFGs and large swords and lots of fantasy weaponry. If you want to see any of my work, you can go down to Twitter and just type in Midnight Giant, and you can see it. I'll be there, and on Instagram, same thing, Midnight Giant. Printing for about 2 years now, and still learning a bunch of new stuff.
Well, excellent. That's what we're all here for. You gotta learn something new every day, or you're not living your life right.
Agreed.
All right, and that brings us to this guy on the end, and I can't remember his name, but I'm sure he'll tell us.
Hey everybody, I'm Matt from How I Do It. I'm not that other you do it guy. I'm not.
Done.
I'm not. I did it. I'm not. He should do it. I'm not. You should do it. I'm just here, and I show you how I do things. I do a little bit of everything. Tinkering with 3D printing, electronics. Been playing a little bit more and more. Every time I come up with something, I'm doing more props. Right now, I'm working on a replica of the SpaceX spacesuit helmet. Kind of sidetracked from doing the Star Wars droids and helmets. So I'm doing a life-size one sitting back here on my CR10 that's in the middle of being sanded, getting ready for paint. Other than that, I'm on Twitter as Country Cowboy, Instagram, Facebook as Matthew Flinchball, and on YouTube as How I Do It.
Awesome. So we got a pretty good group in here tonight, and hopefully somebody knows the answer to the magical questions that will be asked. I do want to mention that Chris Lane in the chat said that Xander needs a bowl cut, which I think would be really fun.
I don't know what that is, but it doesn't sound good.
It's literally where they put a bowl on your head and then cut around it, so you end up with just.
We look good back then. Come on.
I think they should bring back the Floby.
What?
It was a vacuum attachment for your clipper, and it would suck your hair up and then cut it off.
Oh God.
All right, so as far as the topic goes tonight, I'm working on a couple of large projects, which is kind of what made me think about this topic. And as usual, you know, the topic picker is there's usually a reason they pick that topic. So I'm actually working on one large project, which would be the mostly printed CNC machine. I am designing another project which cannot be spoken of, and
Voldemort, I said it.
Shh. Just don't say Beetlejuice 3 times. And then and we're getting ready to start printing the R2D2 finally. So it's going to be a lot of large prints that are sitting around before anything can actually go together. And then of course the question was asked also, how do you manage the parts that you have to order in? You know, if you have a project that takes electronics or whatever, and you have to start bringing in additional parts to go with that, how do you track all of that? And I'd like to say that I write a database for each and every project that I have, and I meticulously, I don't. I usually, the larger printing projects, I usually keep a list of stuff that needs to be printed, and then I pick a drawer somewhere where I put everything as the project goes. So I'd love to hear how each of you guys handle large projects.
So I'd like to start out with, I usually print stuff, turn around, carry it somewhere in my house, and magically, that magical thing is called Jen. It ends up back on my desk in my office.
Oh, sorry, I didn't unmute. We just had a new show, which would be, it's Devin, correct? From Make something.
DesignMakeTeach.
I don't know. Maybe you guys have heard of this guy. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, I'm Josh Ojima from DesignMakeTeach. Do a lot of stuff on K-12, 3D printing, education stuff, and just printing a lot of stuff for We the Rosies. So looking forward to tonight's conversation.
Awesome. Well, it's absolutely a pleasure to have you. And you know, I was just messing with you, right? I think everybody and their brother knows who you are, sir. All right. So how does anybody else handle their larger projects as far as organization, mainly, I guess?
Well, my key for any of the train stuff is, and I've been trying to call it up here, and I'm not finding the page for some reason. I use OneNote a lot, and anything I put together for a project, especially with trains, there's a lot of research into it. I put it onto a OneNote page and slowly bring things together. And the joy is, doesn't matter what you have, whether you're out in the field with your smartphone, on the couch reading a book, or sit in front of the computer and get into the pages and update the information there and track it. You know, it's not a database or anything, but firing all the notes onto the OneNote page can show it to you. And if I can remember where the buttons are here, give a quick example. It's not exactly the one I wanted, but there we go. Here's one made, a couple of pictures in OneNote of a tunnel crossing being built for a layout at the museum. So I got the pictures in there, where the land's going in there. I have more information to add to the file because the track's been laid in now. I got the exact measurements and I can continue on. This tunnel portal, that was 3D printed last year. But this, for any of my stuff, this is a few things. I'd put the links in there, but whatever comments I have where I can find a link. One thing that's most useful for stuff like this is links to, if you see an object on Thingiverse, whatever, you don't want to download it yet, but it's the right idea, toss it on here and you're ready to go. And then as you work on the projects, you can just pop up here. I've done that one. What am I doing next?
Can you show me the OneNote again? Is that kind of like Google Docs?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. This is the Microsoft version.
John, do you use Google Keep?
No, I do not.
So Google Keep would be Google's version of OneNote, but you can get OneNote on Android, iPhone, Windows.
Yeah, I pay for the Office 365. I just never use that feature.
Yeah, it's sort of like a notepad for everything.
I have, my best friend from high school. He's a lawyer now, and he lives in OneNote. You know, he has legal software and everything else, but he does a ton of his stuff on here. And just being his tech support in a way, I've learned to start using it, and I've used it for a stack of projects now, and it's very handy. Somewhere I have a whole bunch more information on some of the train projects I have, but I don't see it here, and I don't know why. I'll have to go hunting down what's going on with that.
No, yeah, that's cool. Because I've been using Google Docs to keep track of stuff when I work on my videos and work on 3D printing stuff. Like when I was doing the Formula One, the OpenRC 3D printed car, I was keeping track of everything that I was printing there.
Well, the one thing, a lot of people subscribe to Office 365, and there's a lot of tools in there that, unless you've been introduced to them, you ignore. So most people are just doing spreadsheets and Word documents, maybe a PowerPoint. But no, there's a lot of tools available to us, and that's just a handy one to make things available. Especially, as I said, for my hobby, I could be out somewhere and I see something by the track, say, oh, I got to model that. I can take a picture of it, fire in OneNote, I know where it's going to be.
No, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and Eddie just said that he uses OneNote for work meetings, so I'm definitely going to look into it. Yeah, cool. Thanks for the tip.
Eddie also said that for project tracking, he's using, I'm assuming that's Jira, J-I-R-A.
Yeah, I think they own Trello, right?
What's that?
I think they own Trello. I'm not sure.
Is that who owns Trello? I've been trying to work more into using Trello. I was going to say that as my example. And John Mack said he's using SharePoint, which is similar to OneDrive, just another company's version.
Yeah, I used to use Evernote when it first came out because it was free across all your devices, and then they started charging if you had more than 2 devices. And I considered it, and then I realized the only thing I ever used it for was writing shopping lists. Like if I was going to run to Lowe's, I would keep keep a list, you know, while I was at my computer and whatever, and then I had it on my phone, which was great. But that's the only thing I ever did with it. I'm really bad about keeping.
So why not have it just on the computer and the phone? That's not more than 2 devices.
Well, you're right, but I realized that that's all I was using it for, and it wasn't even worth having.
Oh.
So, but I'm bad about with my projects. I don't keep the notes digitally. I pretty much write on a lot of Post-it notes. So, which is probably not the probably not the best plan.
Actually, one of the content creators that I follow closely, follow his podcasts, his YouTube channel, a lot of what he does. He does exactly like you do, Glenn. Writes things down on a scrap of paper, Post-it note, whatever the case might be. And he's actually the reason that I'm trying to work into Trello is listening to his workflow. He'll write something down on a piece of paper because it's quick, it's convenient, and then snap a picture of it and put that right into Trello. And he has a folder in Trello that's called needs organized or something like that. Or incoming is what he calls it. Okay. So he'll write something down on a Post-it note, snap a picture of it. Now he's got it digitally, so he no longer has to worry about losing the physical copy of it. He just within a few seconds shares that picture to Trello into his incoming folder. And then later on, he said usually once a week in the evening, he'll sit down and look at his incoming folder and organize it, assign those tasks or notes to the appropriate category. So whether it's his content creation, his podcast, personal life, whatever the case might be, as a recommendation for how to kind of go from Post-it notes to digital.
Yeah, I jot it on a Post-it note and then I stick it to the frame of my monitor. So, and I sit at 3 monitors. So my middle monitor is all work related. Everything that's my job related, and then the monitor over here is long-term stuff, and the monitor over here is stuff that I need to do right now because this is where I get up to leave the desk. So then I see those Post-it notes and I'm like, yes, I have to do that. So, and otherwise I have a whiteboard on the wall back here that we keep track of Xander's Thing Thursdays and the different projects that we're working on as far as Fun King 3D. So that I kind of have an idea of what's going on at a glance, but I'm not necessarily great at keeping that board updated either.
Xander, when you pointed at the camera or behind the camera, Xander looked up there like that's the first he realized that board was there.
No, I was just making sure that it was up to date, but then he's like,
yeah, no, I'm sure because
yeah.
I mean we have a whole, you know, we film Xander's Thing Thursdays ahead of time so that we don't have to do them every week, but there's a list of them and it gets up to a certain number and then it's just like, you know, the 2 little hash, like same as above, same as above, same as above.
Like I'm looking back like, wait, that's been there.
I agree. Whiteboard is the best thing that I ever did for my shop. I ended up getting some of that paint and putting it on one of my spare walls that had nothing on it. And I keep all my little notes of anything I need. So as soon as I'm walking downstairs, that's the first thing that pretty much smacks me in the face, going, oh, I need to get that while I'm out.
That's a good idea. How'd that paint work out for you?
Who's that, sorry?
How did that paint work out for you? Is that like the Sherwin-Williams stuff?
Yeah, it is. If I had sanded the wall smoother and not had the little ripples in it, I wouldn't have to take like Windex to wipe off all the dry erase marker, but it still comes off and stays clear.
Yeah, I have knockdown on my walls, so that would never work for me. But you can go to Home Depot and buy. It's in the paneling section. It's a 4x8 sheet of white masonite, and it works just like a dry erase. So if you need a big dry erase board, that's the cheap way to go. It's like,
I actually did that for one of my offices. Right behind my desk, I put a 4x8 sheet in, and when we were going over design issues, what have you, just write on the walls and that. So you just had to tell people, no, don't write on the other wall. I don't have a panel there yet. Just this one. But it is handy, a great way to work, especially, you know, the large sheet, and you can get a couple of people there doing the design work. It's a handy tool.
I know, and everybody that I've ever heard that's using the whiteboard paint or the chalkboard paint, the biggest thing anybody has ever told me with that stuff is follow the directions to the T in order to get it good and usable. So like the chalkboard, that it doesn't, the chalk doesn't stick into it to a point that you can't clean it and things like that. Like if you follow the directions to the T, the stuff works absolutely great. Sorry, Mike.
So,
but I agree with you with the white. Even with the whiteboard paint, you have to treat it like an epoxy because that's essentially what you're putting on there. Just make sure you follow the instructions on there, because I've seen some horror stories when I was looking up on it. People, like a week later, the whole thing will kind of be dripping down, doing weird waves down their walls.
yeah, probably too thick. I think you put any paint on thick enough and it'll do that. So Ross, when you're doing these projects with all of the gears and stuff, I mean, I'm assuming that you can't print all that in one shot. How do you keep track of what gears are what and where they go?
Well, I thought about this a little bit before the stream, actually, and I was going to ask you how you come up with a project that the scope of it is so big that you forget which parts are which. Because thinking back to pretty much everything I've ever printed, if you could see those shelves behind me, you'll see pretty much every project I've ever printed up on those shelves. And I could pull off anything off that shelf and remember what it's for, what it goes into. I know when I printed it. Most of them I designed, and I know when I designed them. I remember what robot they're for. And so I was a little bit confused by the topic because I pretty much just know every part that I printed. And really the main thing is parts that look the same but aren't. Like this machine has 3 different gears inside here, and all 3 of them are different. So they have marks on them to indicate which one of the 3 it is. And the gear sets have a similar system. They're all numbered. So the gears are numbered. I don't have any within reach, but they're numbered 1 through 6, so you know which way to hook them to install them.
So you're actually taking your management into consideration at design phase.
For the most part, if the parts are indistinguishable after you print them out, yes, I will, for sure.
Are you putting that number right into the design before you print it, or you're just writing on it after you do the print?
It's before it's actually printed. I'll get one and show you.
And I was going to mention to you as well, when he's got his headset off. We'll wait till he gets back.
Yeah, I put marks in my parts. I didn't even think that could be a part of this topic. So when I go through different revisions of parts, like I was printing these covers for batteries, and I was going through different revisions, I was putting the revision number in there so I would know which one it is. And that way, if I got one, I'll know that it's the correct one or not.
Yeah, that's the project that I'm designing right now. That it's killing me not announcing it, but it'll happen soon enough. But that's exactly what I'm doing is, as I hit the different revisions, it'll get a revision number so that as it progresses, then each one, and then you'll always know that you have the newest one. So go ahead and talk, Ross.
So this is the numbers I was talking about. Each one of these gears is different. I mean, there might be 2 across from each other that are actually the same technically, but it's not worth figuring out. So I'm just going to assume that every single one of these is different. And it's hard enough putting them in there 1 through 9, but it's also pretty hard to get them in the exact right spot. So I've got all these alignment marks to where when you assemble this thing, you number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then you line up this alignment mark, which is just an extrusion from the center of this out all the way through the edge of the ring. So that's how you assemble these things. That's how I keep track of these parts, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, and you had made a comment not knowing about a project so big that you can't keep track of it. This right here is about 2/3 of the mostly printed CNC machine, and a lot of these parts look the same but are different. You know, I mean, there's multiples of. So it's like I end up with all of these parts, but luckily the guy that designed this made a very, very decent list of all of the parts. So it's pretty easy to figure it out after the fact. But so far, this is my project management for this project, is a big Ziploc bag.
You're gonna need
I've been looking at the MPCNC primarily because I want to redesign my camera slider, which is using essentially like 3/4 inch conduit or 1 inch conduit like the MPCNC is doing. One of the things with that, I've been looking, because eventually I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to build the MPCNC. But I wish, looking at those parts, that they would put the name of the file with an actual physical picture of the printed part and where it goes on the MPCNC. Because like I'm looking at the parts, and some of them, like you said, Glenn, they're really similar, but they're slightly different in some way.
Right. You have a left side and a right side. You know, they're mirror image of each other.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that. But I mean, if you follow the instructions manual, it's pretty decent.
I haven't had the time to look at the instruction manual. Something like that, I actually never even thought of. I kind of figured that's where you were going with this project and like the R2D2, because that's going to be a lot of printed parts, and then electronics and everything for both of those two projects.
Yeah, Uncle Ron said in the chat a little while ago that R2D2 will not fit in a drawer.
Yeah, you're gonna have lots of pieces. You'll need a trash can to store the pieces in, so you can build another trash can.
I have to agree with that. I use plastic tubs now for most of my large prints, and they'll have like one of these notebooks in them with everything listed on there, so I can just cross off what I've printed already or what I need to continue to print.
Yeah, I was thinking about like big Rubbermaid totes and stuff for the larger stuff. I also have a shelf over here. It's full of miscellaneous junk right now, but I could easily clear that off and store. But I'd only want to do one project on that shelf at a time, so that the parts don't start to get mixed up.
I still got it loading up, but another part you can do in the design phase is if you're using Fusion 360. You have the drawing option. As I said, it's still kicking in, so I can't show it to you yet. But so when you're done your design, you can generate an engineering drawing of what you've done and file that. Once again, create it out as a PDF and dump it into something like OneNote. And that gives you your drawings of your parts as you're working through it. And it doesn't take a lot of parts to get confused, especially as you get older. I can print two things and forget what I did with it. So organizing anything, it does help. And it doesn't like my password. I'll show the drawing one in a moment.
Yeah, the drawing one is cool. Have you done the drawing ones yet, Ross?
The drawings in Fusion 360 you're referring to?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Yep.
I've used them. I sometimes post pictures of them on Thingiverse to give dimensions to people who may want to download the item, but other than that, I have not used them. No. And
yeah,
to make this shirt, actually, I used the drawing feature in Fusion 360. That's how I made this. It's a model of this thing.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
But other than that, no, not for a practical purpose.
So the drawing thing, when Richard brings that up, it's pretty cool. You can pull in an object and it'll do the projection of whatever, whether it's in the middle, a cross section, or the top, the side, the bottom, to show you the different aspects of whatever it is you're doing.
So almost like creating it into a blueprint?
Exactly. Yeah, it has that feature built into it automatically.
Yeah, up at the top on Fusion 360 where it says model, like when you first open it up, click on that after you have a design or something loaded up, and there's an option for drawing or drawings, plural. I forget exactly how it is, but I've played with that. I haven't figured out how to fine tune it to get exactly what I'm expecting. Like Ross, like your shirt, something that's more intricate like that. I haven't figured out yet how to get kind of what I expect to see out of it. Like when I'm looking at 3D models, I'd like to see on like a blueprint of it, the like a front view, side view, back view, something like that, like the three blocks or 4 blocks of it, with maybe like the 4th one being a 3D render of it. And I just haven't figured out how to do that yet in Fusion. I haven't played with it, admittedly, too much.
And it's very slow and very finicky. And that's probably why you click on a button and you might have to wait 10 seconds to actually render that thing for it to pop up somewhere so you can move it around and place it.
Okay.
And that may be why you haven't figured it out yet, because you've been clicking buttons expecting something to happen and nothing happens.
Yeah, that didn't do anything. Go to the next. Yep. Yeah, yep. That very well may be. I haven't sat down and had the patience to do it.
Yep. Yep. And I wanted to mention to you that I wonder if the reason that I have very little trouble like figuring out where parts go after I print them or making sure I printed the right parts is because about 95% of the stuff that I design is actually well, 95% of the stuff I print is stuff that I made in Fusion 360. So I have such a good understanding of what it is and which parts are which that I guess I don't lose track of them maybe as often as I do if I were to make something that somebody else designed. And I wonder if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does for me. Yeah, because I'm the same way. If I'm doing something that I've designed in Fusion, I have no problem keeping track of what parts are which revisions. Even I don't rename my revisions now. Like if I change something just to test it, I may have 2 different files that I'm working from on the printer. So I'll have a new file and an old file. The new file is not always the new file. Sometimes new is the second to last one. Old is I changed something and I want to test it quick. If it works, then I'll continue down that route and get rid of the new one. Just making like a small tweak and printing out a test. So I fully understand what you're saying, Ross. If you're designing it, it's a lot easier to keep track of what's what.
So Josh is sitting over there being kind of quiet. You want to chime in there, Josh?
Yeah, I think the most complicated project I've done was on the design side. I did the Chesapeake Bay watershed, and I don't know if you guys have seen the terrain to STL website, which is pretty cool. You can select an area of terrain, and it'll give you an STL model, right? And that's awesome. But to do the Chesapeake Bay watershed, because there's a limit to the size of each block that you can do, I ended up with like 50 separate blocks that I had to assemble in Mesh Mixer or Nutfab or whatever to actually create a single model. So when it was done, it was just one thing, but I had like 50 almost identical looking squares of terrain. And so, you know, I had to use the the longitude and latitude numbers to figure it out. And so that was the type of thing where it was piecing it together. So I would do a row, create a single model, and then that was the baseline, and then take the other tiles and put them together, put a row. And so it was this just crazy process of assembling multiple files that are almost identically named to composite it together to form a big thing. So
and how is the longitude and latitude tied to the file, like to the
in terrain to STL, like you can select a region, and so what ended up happening is I was defining that area, and then it generates an STL file based on the bounding box. So it names it based on the X and Y longitude and latitude of it.
Oh yeah, that sounds like an easy project.
Yeah, it was a nightmare. Don't ever do that. But that's where, you know, I think file organization, like when you're working with students aren't taught how to organize files. Like none of us were really taught how to do file organization. And so I think it's really important to like have a folder, like here's your primary source files from something like terrain to STL. And then as you're generating your project files, that you have a good naming structure for the different pieces as you're assembling stuff together.
That is definitely a pretty crazy project. And how many, you probably said, but how many pieces did it turn out to be for the section you were doing?
I think it was between 40 and 60 pieces. Because the Chesapeake Bay watershed is all the way from New York down to Virginia, I think I may have put some pieces in that eventually got cut out. I got an STL SVG file of the whole outline. And so I created this big, huge rectangle of the terrain from New York to Virginia. And then I used that SVG file as kind of a stamp to just stamp out the outline of the Chesapeake Bay watershed. As soon as I stop, I'll get the URL for that and drop it in the chat.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
Check the link that I just posted. See if that's right.
Yeah, that's absolutely the place that people can go to print their own terrain, and then I'll post the link to the actual project itself. But
yeah, I think the one John posted in the chat, I think, is the one that Martin from 3DP Iceland, I think he used that, or he may still use it for all his landscapes that he paints.
That's very cool. Yeah, those trains that Martin does is really cool. I have 2.
Wait, how'd you get 2?
Because I'm super special.
Oh man!
what happened was he sent me this one, and I made a comment that he didn't sign it, so he sent me this one and signed it.
Okay.
Very nice. I have Autodesk Fusion up right now. I haven't added dimensions in here, but this is where you can take apart and you can decide what sort of view you want. You can add it in here. You can come in, add your dimensions in, or you can come in and start adding comments. And I don't print it out on paper. I just save it as a PDF and dump it into OneNote.
Yeah, that's cool, because I do all my designing in Rhino 3D because that's the program I knew, and I've been trying to teach myself Fusion, and I got to be honest, I'm very frustrated with it because stuff like the mirroring command isn't as quick in Fusion as it is in Rhino, and I use it a lot, and so I always end up going back to Rhino 3D, but to do stuff like that in Rhino, there may be a plugin available, but I always end up just laying the parts out and making it myself, like doing it manually. So that's really cool that they have an automatic way to do that.
Yeah, it's automatic right off the model, and you can choose different cross cuts that you want, or it's very flexible, very fast tool. And as I said,
can you take the 1 minute approach and show us the model and how you created the drawing?
Let's see here. You can tell how it's been ages since I've used this. So I have to get back into that's model views. Should have it right here. There's the model itself. So I just take the model. I want to create a drawing. You come in from design or from an animation, whatever you have there. So yes, I'm going to use this one. Hopefully, it took me forever the first time coming through here, and that turned out that my subscription had expired. There we go. All right, so it's much faster when your subscription is current. So you got your part, you start placing it in here, and then you can start doing whatever projections you want. What sort of, how do you want your edges to show up? Whether you're going to print it as a solid wireframe. You start with the side view for me. This little area was a nightmare for me, because this is the first thing I did in Fusion 360. I think I took 3 hours to find out that this is a tool that you can use in about 2 seconds. You go click, click, and you just put in your screw size and the head size built in, and you're done. But from here, you can start doing projections, crosscuts.
So if you looked at the OpenRC project, I seem to remember that there were some drawings in there, and I think they may have been done using Fusion 360, because it looked very similar for the assembly drawings.
Which project was that?
OpenRC by Daniel Murray.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think everything Daniel Murray did for OpenRC was done in Fusion.
Oh.
Yeah, so thanks for that little primer there, Richard.
There we go. There's the section of it. I wish I had video of it, because my daughter's boyfriend was here 2 weeks ago, and he loaded up. I think I showed the scan, the full body scan I had done at Calgary Comic Expo last year. Well, he had his done. He got the file He only loaded it onto his system while he was here. He had his Microsoft Surface out, and he's doing, I don't know the character's name, the earlier versions of Boba Fett from Star Wars. He's doing the helmet. He scaled his scanned head, put it in through a crosscut, a slice of his helmet, and he's able to tell that, yes, it's going to be a perfect fit for him to wear. So, Matt, I know you were looking at using that sort of technology for some of your helmets. You did the one scan of your head. He did it in minutes, and it was amazing how well it looked. And it was Fusion 360, which he's been using for maybe 4 weeks now. It's kind of sickening watching him, but it's so quick. But it's just one of the tools you have. But once again, for something like this is a part that I may not need for another 10 years. But having this, put it in a file, great. Oh, that's how I built it. That's what I needed. There's the dimensions. Got it.
Well, and that's, I mean, that's another thing as far as large projects go, mainly stuff that you design yourself. If you only keep digital copies, there's always a chance that it's going to go away. It's going to get corrupted. It's going to get lost, whatever. So a paper copy wouldn't be a bad plan for your projects either.
It's not just the paper copy. Having it put together as a project within something like within OneNote, so you can have all your comments. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm certain everybody's close to the same boat of having, how many 100 STLs on file. Which one did you use? What did you need? So by dumping as much information you can as you work into one folder helps a great deal. If you're doing model making, if you ever want to match paints, it's important to write down what sort of mix you made when you made your original paint. I have an engine house back here that I did the colors on this probably 7 years ago. And I know I didn't use paint out of a bottle. I mixed the paints for it. So I know where the file was. It was a paper file where I had all this stuff written down. And that paper file ended up in the sewage for 10 days when our house flooded. So I wish I had the information as a digital file for this one, because now I'm going to have to mix paint and put the card against the model to see is that a match? No, a little bit darker, a little bit lighter, and slowly play with it to get the exact color match for it. You get some people in the model making who are very specific on their color use, and it is a great part of what they spend their time doing is coming up for that exact mix of color. So you need that color. Then how are you going to do it for the printing? You need all your printing information, all the stats you used, your settings used for the print job. If you want to print again, if we're printing train cars, for example, you print 5 now, and then, next year I want another 5. Well, what settings do I use? Because I liked it, what I did last time. So rather than starting from scratch, put all that information down.
That's why I just keep every G-code file that I've ever produced.
Exactly. Biggest thing is, like Josh had mentioned with his projects, we all, well, I shouldn't say we all, data file management, like managing the digital side of your large projects. I have one on my computer. I have one folder called 3D printing. Everything that I've done 3D printing wise is in there. That includes my YouTube channel stuff. That includes the Friday night 3D printing Hangout logos and the logo design that I did in Fusion 360. All that stuff is in that 3D printing folder, subdivided into other folders. So when I'm doing something 3D printing, that's where I go. I know all my files are there. I know a lot of people with multiple printers will name the exported G code out of their slicer, something file name dash, say a FlashForge Dreamer, they'll put the file name dash FFD. and that's the G-code file for the FlashForge. Stuff like that. I don't do that part. Each one of my printers has its own SD card or Octoprint instance. Everything, like Glenn said, I don't get rid of a single G-code file as long as it's a good one. If it's a crappy one, I overwrite it with the next revision that prints successfully. When I get a good, successful print that I'm happy with, that's the file that ends up staying on there. So, Richard, like you said, in a year, if I want to print something again, I can go right back on the SD card and print that. Now, the one downside to that would be like the CR10 is known because of the power recovery for killing SD cards. That's one that I run Octoprint on. So everything's stored on the Octoprint SD card, which is then all my Octoprint instances are backing up to that same 3D printing folder on my desktop. So
now,
that part of data management.
I was actually just going to mention that, Matt, because ever since the slicers allow you to send the files directly, so it slices and it's just bam, send it to my Octoprint, send it, to all my pies. I haven't necessarily been saving my G codes like I used to. So do you have, like, are you exporting them manually after that?
So using the Octoprint, the printers that are set up on Octoprint, I save those into that 3D printing folder. I have a folder for my CR10 G code. I have one for my TiVo Tarantula, and I have one for my Delta. It's CR10 G code is the name of the folder. Every G code file that I export out of Simplify, or any other slicer for that matter, goes in that folder with the name of the files in a way that I can identify what it was. Sometimes if it's like a project that has multiple pieces that I'm printing, then that gets another subfolder inside of there. So those will go there, and then, yeah, I just manually drag and drop them to save to the local SD card on the printer. But then each printer's Octoprint instance runs a rsync back to my Windows computer to a backup folder. So everything's stored locally, and then it's exported, but then backed up again locally, which then goes to Carbonite for my online backup. Now, the FlashForge Dreamer is the only exception to that because I can talk to it wirelessly using FlashPrint. Simplify 3D, I think there's a way for me to do it. But the key there is anything I send to that printer wirelessly, it automatically saves it to its SD card anyhow, or else the internal storage, one or the other, I forget which. So it's sort of already backed up in a way.
Yeah, see, I was always saving the files out into folders where they needed to be. If I downloaded it off a Thingiverse, I would then save the G code in with that. And because I was doing the drag and drop to Octo, I run all the printers through Octoprint, and so I was doing the drag and drop. But at the point that the slicers let you just send it to my printer, it's so easy now that I don't, and then it piles up on the Octopi, which then I go in and delete that out after a while. So, but
hey, you just got a super chat from Walter.
Oh, Walter, thank you, brother. And I think he's still driving too, so he's super chatting while driving.
We do not condone it.
We don't condone super chatting while driving, but see if you can do it anyway. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so really from the sounds of it, what I've gotten out of this first hour tonight is that I really need to get better about digital note taking, I guess. I mean, it sounds like that's the best way to go, is some type of either OneNote or whatever to keep track of the projects. Still, my biggest issue is, a bag of parts, and then the parts that come rolling in. If you're working on one project and you sit down and you order everything that you need for that one project, it's not too bad. Well, if it comes from, like, so you ordered all from Amazon and it's all here within 2 days and you got all your parts. But a lot of times, again, I'm working on 3 different projects right now. Even the one that's still in the design phase, I'm ordering parts for so that I can test the pieces that I'm designing. and but a lot of that's coming from like AliExpress, which, you know, you could order something and have it in a week or 90 days. So, you know, and I mean, that's kind of the joke in the house is, okay, well, I ordered the XYZ for the this project, I should have it by August, you know, and it's so that's hard too. And their software isn't great for really tracking either. So it's really like I got to keep a notepad for what I ordered and where it's coming from.
That's something where Trello might actually be something worthwhile for you to look into, because in Trello, you can break it up into, I forget the exact wording. So I'm just going to put my own in and kind of describe it. But so you create a task, so to speak. Within that task, you can create notes, you can create subtasks, things like that. So like, let's use your MPC and because you're going to be printing parts, you're going to be ordering electronics for it, ordering hardware for it, buying hardware locally. The idea with Trello is you would make a category for the MPCNC. Under that category, then you'll have electronics that need ordered. Okay. When you order something under that list, then you move it over to electronics that have been ordered, or and then put a subnote under that says, I ordered this from AliExpress. And you could even put in that note, expected shipping, expected arrival 6 weeks or a week. Then once your part arrives, move it to the delivered electronics, and you do that for each thing. So you would have your electronics to be ordered, electronics ordered, and electronics delivered categories, and you just kind of move things down the line basically. Then you'd have one for your prints. Prints that need to be printed, or models that need to be printed, models that have been printed, models that have been prepped or whatever. And once everything's all in line, then now you've got, once the ordered categories are done, you could really get rid of them because you've ordered everything on your list. Something like the MPCNC is easy because they've done a lot of the work for you. They've already given you your shopping list. You know what you need. Now you may vary it a little bit. I've been watching people using different electronics, different steppers, all kinds of stuff on the MPCNC, but you can make those notes of what you ordered after you compile that initial list. You know what I mean? So Trello might be worthwhile for you to look at.
This is Trello, Trello?
Correct. Yep.
And is it a mobile platform? Is it a desktop platform? All of the above?
All of the above.
Yep.
Excellent. I will definitely look into that.
And then, like, kind of taking a piece from Ross, how he labels his parts in the model. Just take a Sharpie, like, say the feet. Yep. Say the feet for your MPCNC. You can put MPCNC foot, and then you could toss it into a bin. Later on, then you're not looking at it going, well, damn, what's the difference between this part and this part? Is this the left one or the right one? You eliminate that because you wrote it right on it.
Yeah, that's kind of how this is working out, because again, a lot of the stuff is mirrored, and the file names themselves were tagged. I think it had an M on it or whatever for the mirroring, but now that it's all in one big Ziploc bag, I'm gonna have to literally look at the picture and figure out which one it was. And I think a little blue tape and a Sharpie would have gone a long way, but I was so excited to print all this stuff.
This is the Trello page, and you can get a free account for it, looks like. I haven't used it, but I've used project management software in the past. But anything that's free helps as long as it's easy to use. One of the key things I find, though, for any system is if it's complex, it doesn't get done. So whatever way you choose, you have to make it quick and easy.
Yeah, Trello, from what I've experienced with Trello so far, it is pretty easy to use, especially like if you've used Evernote and you used multiple notebooks in Evernote. You said you used that in the past, Glenn. Trello follows kind of some of the same guidelines as Evernote did with their feature set. And I think there are paid versions of Trello, but I have yet to find anything that I have to that I've had to pay for with Trello. So
well,
it is
typically project management software is big. I mean,
yeah.
I looked into project management software for work to handle, building skyscrapers. So, like it has to be something, like maybe when you start to pay for it, it gets into bigger stuff like that, which is something that we don't need. We don't need at this level. So, 3D Maker Kid in the chat had asked what, I want to go back. I want to make sure I ask it the way he phrased it. What keeps you guys motivated on big projects?
I have ADD. And I have the hyper focus kind of ADD. So don't interrupt me when I'm working on it, because I get really cranky if I'm interrupted.
I can agree with that one. Full ADHD over here, and if anyone upstairs and tries to ask me to do anything, I just go berserk.
Yep. I think that's why I've been successful so far, is because I'm able to focus.
But I mean, if you're working on a project that like John, your coffee table, I mean, that wasn't a weekend project.
No, that was about 160 hours.
Yeah, that took a long time, and I mean, I have a shirt that says King of Unfinished Projects, because that's really the way I am. But I mean, the Travis in the chat said the end result keeps him motivated. But I mean, when you're working on more than one project at a time, or one really big project, what does drive you to get back to one specific one, or do you do like I do and just kind of, I like to have more than one, because if I work on one, I'll burn out.
I do on a regular occasion. I have multiple things going on, and there's above and beyond 3D printing. I mean, I work in the service trade, so day to day, I'm jumping literally from one job site to another. In some days, I'll work at 5 different job sites. Not necessarily finished at one, but get to a point where I can move away from it and go do something else. So even in my day-to-day job, I'm constantly, like you said, Glenn, bouncing from one thing to the other. And I have to keep track of all that. I have to keep track of everything that I personally want to do project-wise at home, hobbies, things like that. And then everything that everybody else wants me to do. 3D printing for me more recently has been a lot about doing jobs or tasks for other people, not necessarily paid jobs either. Obviously, one of the biggest motivating factors when it's not my specific task that I'm working on is if it's a paying task. Those obviously go to the forefront. If there's been money put down on the table, those tasks kind of go to a priority.
Well, that's the obligation is driving you there.
Yeah. But there's still times where, like you said, having multiple things going on allows you to, when you hit a wall and it just seems like nothing's working right, sometimes it's helpful to just sit that task down and go do something else for a little bit and come back to it. You come back to it and go, oh, you idiot. It was right here in front of you the whole time. It was this simple. That gets me through a lot of things. But ultimately, I really got to agree with what Travis said in the chat. The end product's what really drives me. If I'm doing something that I'm really interested in, like my Shore Trooper helmet, when I did that last year, I had never done any prop related anything at all and decided to jump in with both feet and do a Shore Trooper helmet and make it as screen accurate as I could. That really drove me to get that thing done, to keep just printing one piece after the other, even though I had other things that I probably should have printed in that time frame. So I think, yeah, the end result is really what drives me to do it. The advantage is I've got multiple end results coming.
I'm definitely in the camp of having multiple projects going on. And that's just the way my career has been. It's very rare that I've only had one thing happening in whatever job I'm doing. It's always having to multitask. So that's the way I keep things going here. Well, especially once again, I'll go back to the trains. I started modeling when I was 14, and I have some of those models here. and I'm still going on, and it's just pulling up the data. When you get all the information, then you can start working on the actual build. And when you come up with a new skill, you can go, hey, I can go back to that. And either you now see something you didn't see before, or you now know there's a better way to do the job, and you can improve it from there. The one thing we always say about model trains is your layout's never done. So there's always more to do. So it's not something you finish. You can't finish it. So these are just tools to add on to it. But when you get down to it, things like the roundhouse I was just showing, it was a joy to finally get it all put together and put it on there. But there's still things I'd like to go back and touch up on it, especially since I got the SLA printer. I now know I can do more tools and workbenches, things like that, for that scale that I couldn't do with the FDM printer.
The more than one projects at once kind of thing, I don't think it would like really work out for me, because what I think it kind of is like reading two completely different books at like the same time. It wouldn't work out.
It's an important part of business, though, to like, I spent the past 3 weeks actually not doing stuff from my normal job, and I was just recording YouTube videos. And I started to realize that the more I wanted to get done, the more videos I had to kind of just forget about for a little while I'm waiting for a part or waiting for more plastic or the hardest thing for me is to let something print and not think about it and work on something else. I'm almost incapable of it, but I think it's a really important thing to get things done, is to be able to drop a project and start on another one when you run out of resources to complete the one you were working on.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely something you need to be able to handle.
Well, yeah. And if I'm working on a project that I'm obsessing about, and I hit a point where like I can't move forward, either I have to wait on product to come in or whatever, it spins me out of control, because I'll obsess about it the whole time. So
yeah, it's really hard to forget about something and start working on something else when you really, really want to see it get done.
Josh, how do you deal with multiple projects? Being that you do a lot of teaching, a lot of speaking, I'm sure you have a lot of different things going on at the same time that you're planning for, prepping for. How do you, it may not necessarily be 3D printing related, but how do you go about dealing with that?
Well, yeah, my regular job, I'm a tech guy, so I help teachers integrate technology in the classroom, and like the making stuff, the makerspace stuff is kind of a sideline. So I end up doing a lot of the making stuff after hours. So that's kind of my hobby sometimes. So like something like this topographic map of Virginia, right? That was something that a teacher had asked me for like 4 years ago, and I couldn't figure it out. And it was one of those things that just, I think I hear us all kind of having that same personality trait, right? Like things kind of nag at us and just it's hard for us to let things go. And so, you know, like every 6 months or a year, I'd kind of come back to like, how do you make a topographic map of Virginia? And I put a tweet out and it popped up. But a lot of times teachers will give you stuff that's really kind of simple stuff that you can knock out in kind of Tinkercad or whatever. So for me, there's a couple of different motivations. Like you start on a really big project and you're kind of pot committed. You're like, I've spent 20 hours trying to kill this thing in Mesh Mixer and it's not going anywhere. And it's like, I'm not going to let this model kind of defeat me. And I know somebody could do the same thing in 10 minutes in Blender or Rhino or something like that. But like Mesh Mixer is what I got. So I'm going to figure it out. And like, for me, that's how the Hidden Figures lithophane happened. Like I just spent like 80 hours of just trial and error trying to get the thickness just right. And, that model ended up winning an award and stuff like that. But then like I saw Fredini at Maker Faire, and he looked at it and he was like, oh, this is cool. I could probably do that in Blender in about 5 minutes. I'm like, yeah, well, it took me 80 hours, but it got done. And, I think that's part of what's the joy of it for us as a hobby, right? Like, sure, professionals could just like whip these out in an afternoon, a lot of the stuff that we do, but Like us spending that 20 hours, 30 hours to figure it out. That's kind of a hobby, right? The frustration and kind of the joy of it is us figuring out for ourselves how to do this crazy thing.
Well, not only that, but by doing a project like that you've never done, you're going to learn things in the software that you didn't know you could do for other things. I mean, the project that I'm designing right now, I have almost 200 hours into it, and I've been using Rhino for probably close to 20 years, and I'm figuring out how to do things in Rhino that I've never done before. So either I was never taking full advantage of the software, or I just didn't need it. But yeah, so it's a learning experience.
Robbie Mack brings up an interesting point, and that is working on projects with multiple people. Now he's taking one approach for, one person's doing one thing, or another person's coming in doing the next here. He's talking about the LED table here. But I know someone showed up their piece of Rosie, where it's you're collaborating with others on a project. I know Brenna and I did our bit for the Maker Box last year. They did the giant Maker coin. Has anyone here been involved with a 3D printing project that involves several people working on that outside of these large public ones?
The only one I've been involved in is MakerBox so far, the Maker coin.
I'm just wondering what it'd be like behind the scenes, how to organize that. So, if we're making a R2D2, for example, who's going to print what part, and how to track all that. Now we're getting to our project management, but I just thought be interesting to deal with the 3D printing aspects of handling a large project like that as well.
Now, were you in the live stream when Jen Schachter was in?
2 weeks ago.
Was that the one where she talked about Rosie?
Yep. Yeah, were you in on that?
I just watched.
Okay, yeah, because she talked about a lot of that stuff. Is that what you're talking about? How to organize it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that was really enlightening how she described all that.
Is that how the Eiffel Tower came to be at Midwest Rep Festival? Is that what that was?
Was that a crowdsourced one?
I don't know.
They started that right as I was leaving. I don't know what the story on that was. I know that Mitch, like, I was literally walking out the door and he's like, "Oh, you're gonna miss out on this." And this is how did he put it? This is record setting or something along those lines. But I had no idea what the project even was.
From what I heard from them when I talked to them, it was a crowdsource, so everyone sent their own individual pieces in, I believe.
Okay. I know we were talking about software for organizing projects, like Richard using OneNote, using Evernote, using Trello. That is one of the things that Trello is big on, is multiple people working a team project, so to speak. Not specifically community sourced projects, but a team project. Being able to share out the different project and actually assign who's doing what part of that or what tasks, so that you can kind of keep track of where everybody is. But basically project management. Glenn, you're familiar with that because of your trade. That's something that I know Trello works with for organizing things like that.
Well, I'm definitely going to give it a run and see how it works. I mean, anything really at this point, it's got to be better than the way that I'm doing it. And it's not like anything I'm doing has a deadline. I mean, I would have liked to have had at least one of these 3 projects done before Earth, but I don't know if it's going to happen. The MPCNC machine might, but it's going to be It's going to be 2 foot by 4 foot, and I don't think I want to drag that all the way there.
Strap it to the roof. Mr. Carell, what was that?
My point was assemble it at Earth.
Well, and it's, you know, being that it's built on electrical conduit, it may be easy enough to break it down. You know, like you might be able to pop it apart, but like the cabling and stuff runs through the piping. So, and then we're going to be there for the weekend, and then we're spending a week in DC. So then I'll be lugging this thing into the hotel room and stuff.
I'm only 2 hours from DC, Glenn. You can just drop it off at my house while you're in
DC. Sure, no problem.
Mr. Carell Science in the chat asked, what about if you want to collaborate with someone on a project? How do you find and connect with those collaborators?
Twitter.
Yeah, my first thought would be going to social media. If you don't know the people that you want to collaborate with yet, Twitter or Facebook actually probably would be even better, finding groups associated with what you're working on. So if it's 3D printing related, go into the 3D printing groups and ask, hey, would anybody be interested in a collaboration or helping out with such and such a project? That would be my first go-tos nowadays to find people to collaborate with.
For me, it's actually been Twitter the most for myself.
I want to chime in real quick because Xander just asked me why would you want to collaborate with somebody that you didn't already know the people? And I was going to explain it to him, and I thought, you know, I'm going to do this publicly, and you know, I mean, so that he knows, and anybody else out there that doesn't understand, it may be a situation where either you want more coverage that person has, or vice versa, or maybe you both want to share the coverage amongst an audience that you don't have, or maybe you want to collaborate with somebody who has a laser cutter and you have a 3D printer, and the project is going to contain both tools. So does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I just figured
I can help you there too. I can add a little bit to what your dad was saying. So I did a collaboration with Average Joe's Joinery. He's also known as Average Joe's Photography and Instagram. Anyway, I took a 2 foot round table that you get from Home Depot and ran his logo on the CNC and didn't touch it anymore at all. So it was pine, so it had all kind of crap coming off of the wood and everything. And I sent it off to him, and he finished it superbly. And that was the collaboration. He did not have a CNC, but he used something that I created and made it look amazing. And I'll post a link to that piece in the chat. I'm done.
Sorry, I was just laughing. Robbie Mack posted, or maybe you need an expert gamer, and then you need Xander to collab.
That's rude.
No, he's saying you're the expert gamer.
Oh, okay. I thought he was saying, like, I need to collab with an expert gamer.
So, yeah, I mean, I would, as far as collaboration, it would be Twitter for me. I really hate Facebook, and I think I've made that totally clear that I hate Facebook. But if I haven't, I hate Facebook.
I can agree with that.
But collaboration is awesome, and it can go a long way. So,
Josh, do you want to mention the 2 things that you posted in the chat as far as ways to collaborate with people? Just because we do have some people who aren't necessarily following the chat who watch streams.
Yeah, like 3D printer Meetup. So Meetup is an app, and so for me, the local makerspace Nova Labs has a monthly 3D printer group meetup, and then they also have 3D printer build. So it kind of depends. Like, are you just on the designing 3D models, or are you really into 3D printing? Because they have their own 3D printer build groups, and they do a lot of their own design of that to get the pieces just right. So like meeting people in person is super awesome to make those connections. I think we got somebody new here. Hey.
Mitch, are you at an airport?
Mitch, are you at the airport? Please pick up a white courtesy phone. Boom. Mitch, please pick up a white courtesy phone.
I don't think he can hear.
Probably not.
We can hear everything on his side.
Glenn, if you want, you do have the ability to mute him for now because his audio.
Mute him. I want to lock him out. I want to find out where he is. It looks like he's at a bowling alley or a food court.
No, that's
No, it looks like an airport.
yeah, that's an airport.
Hi, Mitch.
Yeah, they're talking about somebody's packages.
Let's see if we can identify the airport Mitch is at.
Yeah.
Please do not bring bombs into planes.
I muted him until he starts talking.
And so the second thing I think is you got to put your ideas out there. Like a lot of people are like really precious with their ideas. Like they're like, oh, you can't know this cool thing that I want to work on. Well, if you do that, nobody's gonna want to collaborate with you, right? You gotta put a sketch out there. You gotta put a design out. So like I did this interactive art synthesizer, which is this big 3D printed thing that's got a makey in it and does this whole thing. But that all came about because on Instagram, I saw this cool painting that Isaac Budman did. And but he's actually one of the sponsors for Earth this coming up. And so like I was like, I would love to turn that into an interactive thing. And so I sent him a message on Instagram, but I had a little video on there kind of explaining what I wanted to do. And then that's why he was down for it, because I'd already put a little bit out there, enough of a teaser to like get somebody else to go, oh yeah, that's a cool thing.
Yeah, talking about collaborations and why you'd want to do it or how to go about it. These streams are a perfect example. It started as, one night I just had an interest in maybe having a live stream and just chatting about 3D printing, chatting about things we were working on. And here we are a year and 3 months later, and we're still collaborating. And the amount of collaboration that's come from this, all the different people over the last year, over a year, who've been on this stream. We've had people come and go. This is a perfect example of why you'd want to, or also how to do it. That was just a random message on Twitter. I had an interest in doing it and asked who else was interested.
Well, I'm greedy with my projects. When I'm working on something, I don't want anybody to know what it is. It's mine. It's mine. It's my precious.
My precious.
Like Apple.
Right. Exactly. Yes. It's mine and it's proprietary and it'll never work with anything else. No, I have the project that I'm working on. I have full intentions on releasing it to. Well, I'm gonna release it to the public in the end, but I'm going to release what I'm doing probably sooner rather than later, but I wanted to know that I was far enough ahead to where I wouldn't have somebody copy me. It's not that I want to be the first one because it's been done, but I want this one to be mine, and that's kind of why I've kept it.
Man, you're just a big tease.
What's that?
You're just a big tease.
Right. Yeah, well, it keeps it suspenseful that way.
Exactly.
It's really more of a project to see if I can do it. We see Mitch.
Hey guys, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I came in and was really loud, but I was trying to get my Bluetooth headset to work. But I'm actually in the airport, the Dallas airport, trying to go to Maker Faire, but they keep delaying my flight. So, but I'll be at the area.
What is going on that all these flights keep getting delayed?
I don't know. I asked them. They said it's like a bunch of independent incidences. I don't know if it's like maintenance or fuel or who knows. It's not like the weather's bad.
No, there's a third of the fleet that's down as a result of several incidences with engines and people getting sucked out of planes and that stuff.
You sure you want to fly, Mitch?
I mean, if they have duct tape on the plane, that's cool. We'll just patch the hole.
And like Ron said, it's also because of the storms.
Patch that little hole in the inside window, you'll be good.
Print out some parts for them while you're there.
Yeah, I'll print out a window for them, replacement. No, I was actually I was really cramming to get Maker coins printed, and I bought a bunch of atomic. I got like 2 different blue colors of atomic filament to kind of match my new logo. But my print settings are really bad on my Artemis. I don't know what's going on, so I can't ever get a break. 5 printers and none of them work at the same time. So.
Hey, Mitch, Eddie Moser wants to know if you're at Love or DFW.
I'm at Love.
I'm not sure why
Yeah.
you wanted to know that. Maybe he's going to come hang out with you and buy you a cheeseburger.
I'll take another Stella. That would be great. I'm a big spender here. But
So,
yeah,
Mitch,
I
we're
just wanted to
talking
jump on the
about,
stream.
We're talking about how you manage large projects. So, idea how you handle large projects.
Well, in this case, I email Matter Hackers and be like, "Hey, I'm doing a cool project. Want to sponsor me?" And then they send me a bunch of filament, and
I do that too.
And then I get really frustrated with my Artemis trying to get it to work consistently, and then I have it printing when I'm out of town, and then I have my roommate put more filament in it, and then remotely monitor it through TeamViewer, and then hope that my slicing is correct. If it's not, then it's going to fail. Pretty much that's it. It's just using Mesh Mixer, slicing up all the parts, and then hoping it works.
But how about from an aspect where, I mean, if you have a project that says, say it takes, 100 printed parts to put it together in the end, how do you manage keeping track of all those pieces and any pieces, like electronics or whatever that you might have to order for the project?
So yeah, Google Docs is probably, I use like a Google Docs spreadsheet sometimes, especially for robot building, because I usually keep track of weight, because especially for combat robots. But really, printed projects, I mean, Google spreadsheets are probably the easiest way to do it, because you can measure print time and weight and all that. But really, for the project, the big project I'm doing, the JoulBot, I don't know if you've seen it, but I'm pretty much right now, I just have them all the files are labeled, and I'm just taking it 1 print at a time. So, but I kind of tease it on Twitter.
I seen it. So, but okay, so you're printing out, I don't know how many pieces that thing's going to be, but what do you do with the pieces until you start putting together? Or are you literally putting them together as you print them out?
I'm kind of printing, right now they're just kind of stacked on each other. I haven't finished them at all. I'm going to wait till I'm done to finish them, but I will wait till I'm done printing to finish them, because I feel like I'm going to have to drill some of them and put dowel rods to keep them structurally sound. And I'm also going to experiment with the failed prints. I'm going to use the failed prints to see if I need to use epoxy, super glue, if I need to use dowel rods, if I need to use magnets, because this is not going to be self-standing. I can already tell. So, yes.
Do you want one more beer before I close you out or not?
Yes, please. Okay, I'm ordering another beer. Anyway, yes. So right now I'm kind of taking it 1 piece at a time, because I keep having failed prints. So, you just kind of, I'm not really keeping track of it other than what I've already printed. And they're kind of self-explanatory. Really, the big thing that helps is having expressive STL file names. So if you have the G code and the STLs with the correct file names, it actually helps you. Like, instead of numbering everything 1 through 20, you could just name them, what they actually are, and that helps a lot. But,
do you ever use your 3D printing backpack to help you out?
So I'll find out this weekend, because I'm going to be at Maker Faire with the backpack. I have it packed up. It's already checked on. No, it's completely useless. Like, it's such a small build volume that it doesn't have any real practical use. I pretty much I sliced a couple trinkets, like the Maker Faire robot and my Maker coin, and I'm really just going to print like 1 or 2 hour trinkets and give them away to people, because that's about all I can really do with that printer.
You didn't bring it as a carry-on?
No, it's too big. I found it, so my clothes are actually packaging it. So Thank you.
Catch you out on that, please.
You should have brought it on the plane. You should have carried it on and just kept it on your lap and printed the whole time in the plane. I'm sure that wouldn't have set off any alarms with the FAA.
Turned it all.
There you go.
So you're going to have to turn off your 3D printer during descent. But I'm almost done.
Oh my God! You know how loud that would be, and everybody would be like complaining about the smell of burning plastic, and no thanks. That's like the least I want to do. I've actually considered taking it to work, but I realized that even if it's a quiet machine like the Artemis, there's no way like people would still complain about it. So I don't think 3D printers are really that they're not desktop appliances that you can use quietly anymore. I mean, it's still, the Artemis is about the quietest machine I have, but the fan noise would be still annoying to general population.
Hey, my 3D printer is quieter than my dishwasher.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have your dishwasher at your desk or, near your bed.
Or on an airplane.
True. I wouldn't have anything that's not just a cell phone on an airplane anymore. They don't give you enough room. It's like you have just enough space for like a cell phone or a small tablet. So I can't bring my laptop on board.
No, you're no longer allowed to have fun on planes.
No, not at all.
Are they allowed fun kings on planes?
Did I lose you?
What was that right there?
No, we're all still here.
Okay, sorry, it's cutting out. I might duck out though because I'm about to finish my burger, so I just want to say hi. And I'll see you guys at Maker Faire or somebody at Maker Faire.
Well, not us, unfortunately.
Okay, maybe at Earth. I'm going to try to go to Earth, but I don't think I'm going to make it. So.
Oh, that sucks. All right, well,
how about Saturday morning, and then if you guys let me crash on your couch, I'll go. But that's about all I can do. So I'll talk to you guys later. Yeah.
All right, bye, Mitch.
Bye, Mitch. I was looking in the chat because somebody I think it was Robbie Mack that had asked, and I can't seem to find it, but the question was along the lines of like what is the biggest project that you've worked on? Like either like physically the largest or the most 3D printed parts.
Robbie Mack had another good point in the chat too, not to sidetrack it, but they do have 3D printers on the space station, so a plane's got to be kind of minimal, right?
Yeah, but in a space station, you're only annoying like 7 people. On a plane, you're annoying like 700 people.
TMC 2130s, that's the answer.
Oh, that's the drivers.
Sir, you can't bring that 3D print, but I have the Triac drivers. Okay, you can bring it up.
You know what's funny? So, you ever see the smell guy? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? The smell guy? We're talking about space.
All
right. So, when you're in space, you're in a confined space, like in the International Space Station and the space shuttle, all that stuff. And the littlest smell off gas from any product can have disastrous effects on the people in that confined space. So they have a guy who is legit called the smell guy, and he can smell anything that's moldy, mildewy, formaldehyde, all this kind of stuff. So I'm wondering what materials they handle on 3D printing. Because like the 3D printing stuff, PLA,
yeah, but maybe the printers. Maybe it's in a capsule and it vents out into the atmosphere.
Yeah, they might have like carbon filtration on it or something. Yeah, that could be. But I'm just wondering how they handled it.
It is a sealed unit, so it looks more like a microwave.
Right. Yeah, so then that makes sense. Huh?
Yeah. So it has to be filtered through there.
Yeah, and if I recall, I think I did a write-up of it, and I saw it at Varhazy. Like these things slot into to these predefined spaces. So the same things where they do an experiment with. So it like you don't want your experiments like off gassing into the main containment area. So that whole thing is is contained in an area and filtered and has its own electrical connections, but it's all a modular system. So the Made in Space one just kind of slots in.
Well, that's pretty cool. I want to do a quick shout out to Robbie Mack, who just threw a $5 super chat and said we need to collaborate a space station. So everybody start printing. We'll just print a space station.
It wouldn't hold air.
That depends on how many perimeters you put and what your info.
Epoxy coat the whole thing on the outside. We're good.
Well, they have the microsat, so we could all do a 3D design for a microsat type of thing that'll eject out.
All right, so back to the question: biggest print you've ever done, either by the most amount of pieces or physically the largest.
For me, it's only been the Doom mask, right?
What was that, John? The what?
The Dr. Doom mask. It was 2 pieces. It was my largest print that I ever did, and I glued it. And when I glued it, it didn't glue nicely. I shifted it by the smallest amount, so I got a lot of prep work I have to do.
Right here's my 2 biggest so far.
Nice.
That's so awesome.
He has me beat.
What was that?
You got me beat. All I got is this thing, and this is it's a gear winch type thing, but it was literally the size of my build plate. Nothing glued together, just attached. But you definitely got me beat with those masks. They're probably bigger than this.
Yeah, but yours are words I can't use on the stream to make it not family friendly. Yours are pretty cool.
So is that the one you lifted the anvil with?
No, this is the one that I almost pulled the tree out of the ground with.
Yeah, that's badass. Yeah. Awesome.
Well, now, Ross, your projects, I mean, like you have to have some that had a lot of parts internally, yes?
Yeah, like this is just a winch mount for this is the actual workhorse. I mean, you'd think they have a lot of parts internally, but this only has, let's see, 10 planet gears, 3 external ring gears, and then 3 sun gear parts. So I can't count, but if I could, I'd say that's approximately 16 gears. And then the mount just has 3 parts too. So 16, yeah, 19 parts.
That has as many parts as the Short Trooper helmet that I held up.
Now, Matt, you don't get to count that because you didn't print that.
I was going to say, I'm showing this before Mike gets out his big toys. This is my biggest 3D print I own. This is one of the Park Daddy bases.
The sword.
So only those who have seen Lord of the Rings can show their parts.
Oh.
He's not on headphone right now.
You know, Brenna had a much longer sword before my cat and dog visited, but this was, I think, 7 sections for the full length of the sword, and it broke at the glue point. We glued it with a combination of epoxy and a weld of 3D printing pen, using it as a welder around the outside. So that was the very first thing she printed too. But I go the other direction, and I think I got the wrong camera on. The other direction is that's a dime that you're seeing on the screen. I go small, not big. So what I was trying to show before was, so swords get very, very long. You can do all the parts. The welding them together is the fun part.
All right, everybody hang your head in shame. Here it comes.
Oh, no.
I win. If you're stupid enough to print too big of an object, you do end up with a big, giant paperweight.
I've held that thing.
What is it?
The BFG 9000, bro.
Hey, Mike, for everybody that doesn't know, go ahead and give the background on that. Like how much filament, how much it weighs.
First of all, he's got to hold it steady so it comes in clear. Richard wasn't able to see what.
Hold on. There we go.
There we go.
Oh, okay. Well, I have to run up 3 flights of stairs to get this thing.
Oh, you got back pretty quick, as big as that is.
Yeah.
You want someone else to talk about it for a while?
Holding these things. Overall plastic in the end of it all was 37 pounds of plastic on this thing. With supports and everything else, I was using something like 42 pounds of plastic to put this whole thing together. But overall time to actually build and paint and print everything was about 4 months of work to do this thing. This is actually my, I think, 4th actual major project in 3D printing. I printed, oh gosh, what was it? I think I printed a large-scale Pikachu, a Fluistics model, and then I printed a Master Sword. I printed something else, and then I went, no, I want to go bigger. And then this beast came out.
That thing is so awesome.
Yeah. And the best part about doing the whole thing was I learned so much from different sanding techniques, different ways how to calibrate my printer better. With, I think I had, what was it? It's close to 70 different pieces to print out on this. So a Sharpie was my best friend to keep everything organized on it.
And what printer was that printed on?
This was on 2 Rostock V2s at the time. It was 1 solid month of both of them just constantly going, printing and printing and printing. As soon as one was done, I'd run upstairs, go, okay, good, done. Pop it off, print. The poor thing's never stopped.
That thing is just too cool.
I think it's cool that was one of your first prints, if I understood you right. Like, that is incredible. I think back to some of the earliest stuff that I ever printed, and nothing that big. I wasn't that daring.
No, I don't have the first thing I printed out was just, weirdly enough, was a Goku. He was holding his hands out like this, and it was just a cell phone holder. First thing I found thinking about it, so I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then I printed, like I said, the sword and another little thing, and I went, no, let's not dance around this. It was actually, I went to Murph, what was it, 2 years ago. And someone joked around saying, because my name was Midnight, I have it as Midnight Giant, they said, oh, you need to print out like something big, like the BFG or something. I said, oh, that'd be funny. And then I was dumb enough to go home and go, all right, let's see what it's going to take. And it hasn't stopped there. Now I'm continuously building bigger and larger prints. This one almost weighs the same amount as it now.
I think that brings into another topic we can cover sometime, and that's breaking down a large design into printable parts. Different ways of being able to end up with something like the BFG or that thing.
Mike, did you do the modeling for that yourself, or did you pull it from the game or from somebody else? Where'd you get the model for that?
For the BFG?
Yeah.
That was actually Kirby Downey's design on My Mini Factory.
And you just scaled it up to a full scale.
They had a pre-sliced version and then a whole version. And I took their pre-sliced version, and I don't know if they did it, if they had larger printers at their location or something, because when I put it in, it was designed for like a printer that had a 15 by 15 by 15 size build volume. And so I had to go in and import the full-size one, and then essentially like a just square mesh, and just extruded the cuts right through everything in a 12-inch diameter by, what I have, 12-inch height, so I could actually print on my printer with it.
So you just chopped it into the pieces rather than designing separate parts that go together.
Yep. I believe the ones they use threaded rods to hold the whole thing together, but this one's just held together with epoxy and super glue. And from that, I've learned because it's one of the reasons why I'm not bringing it to shows anymore, is it's getting little cracks here and there from being held so much and lifted by people. I've got a couple of them that run up the main joints of it now, and I'm starting to see it split up. So before I'm at a show and this whole thing just splits in half and I cry in front of everybody, I'd rather just keep it at home now.
Yeah, how's your display going? Did you mention that at all?
No, I just need to get a little bit of revenue so I can order that glass now.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Are you going with glass or acrylic? The glass is probably better.
I'm going to go with glass. To be honest, I want it to be my coffee table, but the whole thing's so big that I might actually put some feet on the bottom of this thing and actually extend out the glass further and make it into a game table.
It's safer to extend the glass, like I told you, beyond the width of the table.
Yeah, for the bowing and everything. I looked up some videos and seeing what might happen if you don't, and it's pretty catastrophic. Of just I don't think of something as glass to bend so easily, but it can flex a lot.
It's a liquid, so yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's very cool. Thanks for putting us all to shame.
We got to bring one of those rockets at full scale then. We got to get up to space.
Well, Neres is actually redesigning Xander's rocket to be actually flyable. He's gonna literally fly
And
one
Joel
of
is
Xander's.
gonna G-max it at some point.
Well, yeah, Joel did say he was gonna G-max it at one point, but that was like a year ago. So, and I know he's a busy guy.
He's back in like September before New York Maker Faire.
But that's as big as I can make it. That is the only successful print that I've had come out of that E12. And that is 100% of the bed. Even the skirt went off the bed. The feet were right to the end. So that's.
And we got to talk so we can get that thing at full scale. Show up Joel a little bit.
Jeez, I don't even have a printer that big.
Yeah.
What was that, Ross?
I don't even have a printer that big. I still print on an ANET A8.
Oh, dude, my AM8, my conversion from the A8, that thing is so rock solid. It is. My Prusa was always my go-to printer, and now it's like, I don't know. In fact, the AM8 ran all day today, and the Prusa got 0 prints today. So I don't know.
Are you saying I should cancel that pre-order that I've got for the MK3?
No, absolutely not. So, but I think I'm going to get to the point where my Prusa is just PETG, and then my AM8 will be my PLA go-to printer. So, not that it won't do PETG as well, but I just hate switching back and forth. It always clogs.
It'd be really, really nice to not have to worry about switching materials and nozzles and switching from your Teflon tube to your all-metal one and all that fun stuff.
Well, I told my wife the other day that I needed an MK3 so that I could have a PLA printer and a PETG printer, but she didn't buy that.
I don't have a wife or a problem like that, so the decision came in my mind one day and it was done.
Well, I was excited to get that E12 because of the build volume. It's a 300 by 300 like the CR10, 3x3 by 4, but I spent another 2.5, almost 3 hours working with it last night, and I just can't get it to no matter how I level the bed, the nozzle always runs into the bed. I physically moved the nozzle above the bed like a millimeter, and it's still running the nozzle into the bed. I don't know how it's happening, but
it's like, no.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not happy with it, but I'm hoping that I have an AlphaWise, what is it, the U10 or U12, whatever they call their CR10 knockoff. I'm thinking I have one of those coming, so that'll be cool.
It's the U10.
Along the topic of large projects, if I can maybe ask a question here before midnight, and we'll maybe wrap up with this and do outros, if that's all right with you, Glenn.
Sounds good to me.
2 hour. So for everybody on the panel, and Glenn, you can do this however you want, if you want to go down the line or however you want to do it. for everybody on the panel, if you are doing a multi-part project, what's one thing that you'd like to improve on managing your project? So one of the things we've discussed tonight, or something that we haven't discussed that you just like to find a better way to do it. How about that?
That's a good question. I'll start, and then I'll go my right to left. And I actually stated it before, and it seems that digital note taking seems to be where I need to be going to keep track of my parts, and maybe a little painter's tape and a Sharpie marker on the projects or on the pieces. So sorry, that's not a bigger, longer answer, but I think that sums it up. So that's you, John.
So that's how they're doing it for the We the Rosies Sharpie marker. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, but how do you suppose they generated that number? Like, what does that number mean?
That somehow that was automatically generated when they split it up. I forget what Josh, do you remember what program they used to split it up?
No, I think they just used NetFab maybe, and so I think they just did plain slices and divided them up into an XYZ grid of, I think it's 75 by 75 by 80 something.
And it automatically creates these STL files then, right?
Yeah, but I think they had to generate it. I think what you do is you can click on an individual piece and then export it out, and then I think they manually typed in the names, I think.
Oh, crap.
The XYZ is, so you have your X plane, your Y plane, and Z. So every one of these pieces, these cubes that everybody's printing, essentially, pictured as a block. If you had X1, Y1, Z1, it would be this corner. And X75, Y1, Z1 would be this corner. Okay. So picture that like a cube broken up into little pieces. It's X1, Y1, Z1 starting here. And then they go across. Z increases number as you go up the model. Y increases as you go back. X increases as you go left and right. So picture it as your build plate. That's what those coordinates are. It's, if you have 1 by 1 by 1, then that is the bottom left corner piece, so to speak, in the model.
And what was the number on yours, John? That looked like a big number.
I forget what it goes up to, but this is X16, Y10, Z7. But I printed like 50 pieces, and I think the biggest I saw was like 17, 18 maybe. But it's random how they're delivered on the website.
Okay, yeah, I didn't realize that it was literally that number was written out as XYZ like that. So it just looked like a big number.
Coordinates of the piece, yeah. So John's will be somewhere in the 7th layer of the model.
Yeah, there you go. That's the, if you can read that, I don't know if you can see it.
X16, Y10, Z7.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. So then some of the pieces of that model are just like completely internal, like they don't get seen at all.
Oh yeah, that's what John Mack and I and Mike Fancy, NLTMW have been talking about. We're sitting here printing these pieces, and like we're trying to rise to the top to be the one with the most printed pieces, and you get stuck with these internal pieces that are 75 by 87 by 75 millimeters. And they take like 4 hours to print, and you can't get ahead when you can only pull one piece at a time.
Well, can't you print them like almost hollow at that point?
Yeah, you're allowed 5%. They recommend 2 shells, 5%. So I did 3 layers top, 3 layers bottom, 2 shells, and 5% infill, and it's worked out pretty well that way. See, I'm a pro at printing wood now. Good.
The pieces that I printed for the Maker Box coin for Maker Faire New York, most of my pieces, I did everything in Simplify 3D when I sliced it, and I used the variable layer adjustments. So I'd start out the first, heck, in most cases, 75% of the piece was completely, it was 0% infill, completely hollow. And then as I got closer to the top layers, now this is a little bit different from We the Rosies, because We the Rosies, you don't know what's going to be outward facing and what's not. But with the MakerBox coin, it was only one level on the Z-plane. So I printed everything hollow up to about 75%. Then I went to like 2% with rectilinear infill and just did some hellish big bridges across the print. And as I got higher, I started to increase my infill as I got closer to the top layers. So the top layers had decent support under them. You don't really care that where you started at 75% at like 2% infill, it looked like absolute crap, but it gave the semi-structure for the rest of it to start to build up onto. That was how I saved filament and sped up my prints. Weed the Rosie is a little bit different because you're literally making a three-dimensional project when you're talking the planes.
I got to get simplified 3D. I'm using the slicer, the Prusa slicer still.
Yeah. So sorry.
Back on track. Back on track. So Ross, let's go to you, brother. What? I guess what's your takeaway from tonight?
Could you repeat the original question that we were supposed to be answering? Oh, what is it, Matthew?
Yeah. So in your multi-part projects, out of all the different techniques that you use to keep things organized, what's the one thing that you would like to improve the most on, or feel you can improve better on? Hey, Ross, this is probably a little bit more difficult of a question for you to answer because most everything you do is what you designed. So you're basically in control from the start.
So I understand your question, but in a way I'm going to kind of ignore it. So my biggest problem with a multi-part design is that I'm designing it and I'm also printing it. Like 95% of the stuff that I've actually made on my 3D printer is stuff that I've designed. And my biggest problem is that I'm too willing to print out a design before I'm actually done with it. And I'll say print out this part here and then decide along the way that I want to change this part in a way that I also have to change this part. And it turns out to where I have to reprint both of them at that point. And so I'll end up with a small, bucket of parts of which are all wasted because I've already printed them in preparation, so I say, for the finished product, when in reality I had ended up having to reprint them anyways.
That's called rapid prototyping.
I think it's too rapid at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my answer.
All right, and that takes us to you, Richard, if you're there. I'm looking at your worktop, I think.
This is what I want to improve the most. That's my work table with parts all over the place. And so the organization of the parts, that's the key thing is I have stuff everywhere. At the start, I showed a double portal tunnel entrance, and the layout's now ready for me to put that on there. Do you think I can find it? It's in this room somewhere, and I have looked and I have looked and I have not found it yet. So I may end up reprinting it. But so it's not the organization of how I'm going to print things, put them together. It's how I store the stuff afterwards so they're ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably one or two of us in this group that don't have workbenches that look like that. I mean, the workbench I have here in front of me, I have to keep clean because it's where I shoot video, but where I used to shoot video is a disaster now because I don't shoot video over there anymore. So, but I feel your pain. I feel your pain. Can you, Mike?
For me, it'd probably be more for a priority on printing. So, because I have so many projects going on at once, I'll end up printing certain projects that didn't need to be printed for a week or two later, and the current ones end up falling behind schedule. So more organization in the form of what needs to print next than between all different kinds of objects.
Sorry, I couldn't get to my unmute button, but yeah, that's a very valid point, and I'm guilty of the same. So I guess that's a place where that whiteboard, or even the project management software, could come in, because I mean, I may be in the middle of something and then I have to stop because of Xander's thing Thursday, and then stuff gets thrown out of whack. So yeah, that's a valid point. So
Doesn't
that takes
that
us to
mean
you,
have to
Matt.
buy another printer?
What's that?
Doesn't that mean it's time to buy another printer?
Yeah, can you send my wife a note saying that?
The sad part is I just got another one when I was at Merck, and now I'm sitting here going, yeah, I need another one.
Well, I think that I just need some that are tuned up better. I really have two go-tos, and then the Robo is still a little wishy-washy as far as initial layer, and then the E12 is awful. And we don't use the little guy. The little one up there just
is a collectible.
It's a collectible. All right, Matt, that takes us to you.
I think so. With any of my large projects, there's two things that I'd like to improve on, probably equally. The first one is I will procrastinate for a while about finally sending something to the slicer or to the printer. I'll slice it. The SpaceX helmet, spacesuit helmet. I sliced that thing back when the Falcon Heavy rocket launched and Elon Musk put his Roadster into space. That's as soon as I saw Spaceman, I said, I'm printing that helmet. I had the files. I had it sliced 4 months ago, whenever the rocket launched. It was like that week. I sliced that file. I had the G-code sent to the printer, and I kept procrastinating about hitting the print button, only because I was concerned that I'd start printing that. That was at the time, the way I sliced it, it was estimated 60-hour print time. So it was, can I afford to have this printer tied up for 60 hours? Or what am I going to need to print in that time that now I wish the printer wasn't, and I need this part? I need this thing that I'm designing. That's the first thing. I'd like to get better at not procrastinating and just send it to the printer. My printers, prior to printing that helmet, my printers had sat idle for 2 weeks just because I was too busy to come down here and get the printers running with work and stuff. I was basically coming home, eating, going to bed, or playing with my daughters and going to bed because I had to get up early for work. So there were 3 weeks there where I could have gotten a heck of a jump start on that helmet, on all the other Star Wars droid heads and helmets that I want to print, because I want to do all the droids heads full scale and all the helmets full scale from all the Star Wars movies. So that's one thing I really want to get better at. I procrastinate and could have had it done weeks ago. The second thing is in favor of my YouTube channel, filming more of what I'm doing, getting the camera set up, whether it's off to the side, out of my way, or whatever, but just getting the camera set up and recording what I'm doing, rather than once I have something printed, I see that the finish line at the end of the post-processing, and I'm racing for it. And I don't take the time that I should with the cameras, so I don't get the content that's worthwhile to put on my YouTube channel. The camera, I still have not figured out the best way to work the camera into my workflow. So those are the two things that I would say I want to improve on.
Yeah, that's a tough one, because if you're a content creator, all projects take longer because you have to move the camera around. You got to talk to the camera. You got to explain everything you're doing. You can't just do it. So
yeah, it's so much easier to just snap a picture here and there through the progress and post it to Instagram, and okay, now I'm done. It's on Instagram, it's on Twitter, whatever. I'm done.
Yeah, it doesn't help your YouTube views though.
Exactly, and that's where my YouTube channel lacks, because of that workflow not being fully thought out yet.
Gotcha. All right, Josh, that brings us to you, and then we'll do outros.
Yeah, I think the barrier for me for like the really big projects is like I have access to 8 different models of 3D printers between school and home, and if I could just like fire off parts to each and every one of them, then I could do larger stuff. But like this planetary gear thing is an example. I was going to try and print different pieces in different colors on all the different printers, and so parts from the same printer work together. But when you try and mesh those parts from different printers together, they don't work. So it's like, oh, I have a solid color part because they all came from the same printer, and this one works from that printer. But what I really want is for all 8 of my printer models to be able to have those pieces be able to work together. And some of it's slicer issues, and some of it's probably filament, and there's just all of these different variables that I haven't figured out how to control for, to be able to take all of those things and have them mesh together and work. So to me, that's kind of the first big thing. And like the second big thing would be is if I could have 3D Printer OS print wirelessly to all of the different models of printers that I own, that would make things a lot easier. But having to open up Cura and then Simplify 3D and then MakerBot and all these other things, it's just that part tends to be a pain and slow down the big stuff.
Yeah, well, for your first part, I was going to say you're probably like come out better if you wished for a unicorn, just because so many printers are so different. And your second point is dead on as well, and it's why I'm starting to really consider setting up. I've never used the slicer side of Octoprint, and it's so hard because I use different slicers for different printers. For whatever reason, slicer, the Prusa Edition slicer doesn't work well for my AM8, but it works great for my Prusa, of course. You know, so yeah, it's good points all the way across the board. So let's go back and we'll start. Well, actually, let's start with Richard. Richard, if you want to do your outro.
I just realized that I haven't worn this thing today, so have to have the hat on. The channel is the Zadim channel. All the information should be showing up here. If you go to the website, zadim.com, it links to what I'm doing. I've been off air for almost 6 months now, but I'm getting back into content creation. So between that and fighting with the weeds in my yard, that's what's keeping me busy. Facebook page, by the way, the one to go check out is 3D Printing for Model Trains. And it's been a lot of fun tonight. I'm glad I made it back. I miss this.
Well, we're definitely glad to have you back, and we're definitely glad that you're feeling better. That's the most important thing. So,
if I can jump in real quick, Glenn, I have one quick question for Richard to see if he remembers this or if anybody else does, and maybe this is a good collaboration. Somebody was going to model your hat, Richard. Who was it? Somebody was going to make a 3D printable version of your hat for us to print it out.
Yeah, I remember somebody saying that too, but I don't know who it was.
The guy was doing it in ZBrush as we talked.
Was that 3D printed Aspie?
I think so.
Okay. I haven't seen or heard from him for a little while. I'd like to put a challenge out to anybody in the chat or watches the stream later. Right now is a good chance the next time Richard says something to do a screen grab and somebody model that hat up.
You gotta do a standard. Am I off mute here? Yeah, I'm off mute. Standard top hat, but a little bit of steampunk on top here. So
Richard, look directly at the camera, and then do a side profile for us.
Oh, we got that. You get the side. I'm suspect number 6.
You turn 30 degrees each time.
Photogrammetry.
It's a top hat. There you go.
Thank you.
Thanks, Richard.
All right, Ross, go ahead with your outro.
It's been good. So take care.
Ross?
Later, Richard. My name is Ross. I run a YouTube channel called Geared On For What, where I make gearboxes, continuously variable transmissions, which are pointless. I make gearboxes which can work as winches, such as this one. It's like 149 to 1. Or this one that's 160 to 1 that you could use to lift up your local anvil at your local blacksmithing shop. It's completely pointless. It's completely useless. A lot of the stuff that I do is, but I base it all off of a concept called compound planetaries, and it's something I thought I came up with, but it turns out NASA came up with it like 10 years after I was born. That kind of thing. I have my own YouTube channel. I'm literally just about to hit 50,000 subscribers. It's blown my mind as to the audience that's interested in this stuff. And if you guys would like to come and subscribe and get me closer to the 50,000, that would be awesome. I'm glad to come and join you guys, and have a good night.
Well, thank you for being here, Ross. And yes, anybody that's in the chat that hasn't subscribed to Ross, please do.
In the chat.
What did I say? Did I say in the chat? Okay. Xander likes to correct me even though I didn't say things wrong. All right, John, let's go to you next.
All right, I'm John. Would you do it? Not to be confused with Matt with how he does it. You can find me on Twitter, u_do_it. On Instagram, u.do.it. You can find me on Twitch sometimes, udoit2. Xbox, if you want to hang out and play. I play with some of our fellows here in the chat. We do PUBG a little bit and some Star Wars Battlefront. I create anything I can create. If somebody asks me to do something, I'll probably do it. So if someone asks me to do a coffee table, and I'm like, never built a coffee table before? Yeah, sure, let's do it. And I do like to collab. So if you have an idea for a collaboration, don't resist. Reach out. My time is limited, but I might be able to squeeze it in. So, and I am Tony. That is the rosy part that is being printed right now. It's part number 50, maybe, or maybe 51. I'm not sure where it falls. But yeah, we have a really good community here. I appreciate Josh coming out and joining in, and Mike for taking me up on the invitation earlier this week when I found out what it was we were talking about. So yeah, thanks for letting me be part of this community too. One last thing is I'm working on banner number 2 for Earth. So we'll have 2 banners there, and I need to get your headshots and channel art, and then I'll begin assembling that shortly, probably over the next week, probably right after Memorial Day.
I'm assuming the second banner is for those people who weren't on the first one.
If you're on the first banner, you're not on the second banner.
That makes sense.
Oh, man.
Did you get my email, John?
Did you send email or did you do DM and Twitter?
I went to YouTube and I looked at your bulk page and I sent you an email with that email. Did you not get that?
No, I probably did. Let me check right now before you leave.
All
I'm
right.
done talking.
All right, so we'll go over to Mike next.
All right, I am Mike, also known as the Midnight Giant. I print big, ridiculous things that essentially are wall hangers if your wall is strong enough to hold it up. And my designs are mostly based on medieval and futuristic weaponry. If you want to see any of this stuff being made as I'm breaking it or trying to assemble it, follow me over on Twitter or Instagram, just the Midnight Giant. And no, that'd be about it. I'm done.
I got it, Ross.
All right, you guys have your little conversation on your own. No, I'm just kidding. All right, I'm gonna skip Matt and go to Josh. Josh, go ahead and do your outro.
Hey everybody, I'm Josh Ajima at DesignMakeTeach. I do stuff about 3D printing, digital fabrication, making in the classroom, K-12. And so I got a YouTube channel and I do some conference stuff and a few little odds and ends. And of course, I'm on Twitter at DesignMakeTeach and Thingiverse and all the other places pretty consistently. DesignMakeTeach is the brand. So if you're interested in education and 3D printing, give me a shout out.
Awesome, perfect. Well, thanks for being here, Josh. And that brings us to you, Matt.
Hey everybody, I'm Matt with How I Do It. Not to be confused with John. Maybe somebody in the chat, I missed who it was now. Robbie Mack. said, John, you and I should probably do a collaboration, but he wanted to know if it would be called IU Do It.
But that's like IUD.
If you guys did a collaboration, nobody would have any idea who did it.
Can somebody take like if Matt and I were to have a baby, can we merge the faces and see what that would look
Nobody
like?
wants to see that.
You play some Shaggy in the background.
Yeah, so I run the YouTube channel, How I Do It, and I also organize the Friday night 3D printing community hangouts. I was talking to Chris, who's in one of the ones in charge of EARF this year. The Friday night hangouts will be they sponsor him, and I have to talk about the details on Sunday, but the hangouts will be a sponsor of EARF. So that's coming. If you are interested in being on the streams, there's a Facebook F3DPCH-streamers group on Facebook. I realize not everybody has Facebook or social media. Get in touch with me and we can try to work out some details on how to get you on the stream if you're not on Facebook. What we've been recommending is just creating an account just for the Friday night hangouts. But get in touch with me first before you do that, just so we're aware. There are some questions that we ask when you join that group just to kind of validate who you are or what your involvement is in the community. And we are looking for people to be recognizable in the community. When somebody's not recognized, I basically put the question out to everyone in the group or who's been involved in the hangouts, asking for people to, so to speak, vouch for somebody. And the only reason for that is to protect everybody on the streams and protect the stream itself. The last thing we want somebody to get on and go rogue and ruin this great community event that we have every 2 weeks. So anyhow, if you just want to keep up with the groups, you can, or with the streams, you can follow the Friday Night Hangout on Twitter, which is at F3DPCH. And on Facebook, there's the public F3DPCH-public group on Facebook. Just search for F3DPCH and you'll find both of them. You can join that. We post the events, the times, who's hosting, all that stuff on there. Any changes that we make to the stream, all that stuff gets updated on those to keep everybody informed. The next Friday night hangout will be Friday, June 1st. And at this point, the host channel has yet to be determined. So we'll be posting that as soon as possible. I'm trying to get onto a rotation where we're at least announcing where the channels or where the stream's going to be on the Monday before the Friday night hangout. So that's kind of the plans, trying to get things organized a little bit. And if you guys have any feedback, if you have any topic suggestions, we're always open to topics from the community. The host for the week picks the topic that we discuss. This week, Glenn picked this week, Glenn picked the management of large 3D prints. And last week, we kind of talked about something similar, which was community source projects like We the Rosies and MakerBoxes, MakerCoin. So if you have suggestions, get in touch with me, get in touch with anybody who's on the streams, and we'll try to make that topic happen. So I just personally want to say thanks to everybody who joined the stream tonight, and thanks to Glenn and Xander for hosting the stream.
All right, well, I guess that leaves us.
Picked it is a gooder word than picked.
Did you catch that, Matt?
Teaching him.
At the point that you said picked it, the whole time from then on, that's what he's been saying. Picked it's a better, Whew. These streams are too late for Xander. He's really tired, and he gets really weird at this time of night. So, but for everybody out there that doesn't know who we are, I'm Glenn.
I'm Xander.
And we are Fun King 3D. And we're a father and son team that likes to do 3D printing and some electronic projects. And finally, after a year, We've really got some projects that are going to combine the two, which will be pretty awesome. We can be found everywhere. Well, okay, not everywhere, but almost everywhere at FunKing3D. So Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Gab AI, probably some that I'm not remembering, but FunKing3D, and it'll be all one word, unfortunately. It'll be crushed up in there. So, but yeah, that's I just a big thanks to not only everybody that came and was on the panel tonight and co-hosted, but all of you guys out there in the chat, because you're the reason that we do this. Not to say that we couldn't have a great conversation without you, but it is way more fun with you guys watching. So, yeah, I guess that's all I got for tonight. So that's the end of the normal topics. Now we get into the crazy stuff.
Oh God.
Can we talk about 3D printing?
What's that?
Can we talk about 3D printing?
Yeah, we can talk about 3D printing. That'll be new. We haven't done that before.
Nah, that stuff's boring.
That stuff's boring. Yeah. Yeah, I don't really like to do it. I actually don't ever print anything. I just have these behind me for show. In fact, they're cardboard.
How many in the chat? I don't know if anybody on stream's going or not. Sunday, this Sunday at from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Down in Newark, Delaware, at Printed Solid, they're having their second year anniversary. They're actually having kind of a mini Maker Fest. Is anybody in the chat or on the stream attending that? I'll be down there.
Say it again. What is the event?
It's Printed Solid's second anniversary. And they're doing kind of like a little Maker Fest. They have a couple of people who are going to have tables set up and showing what they're working on, or the maker spaces that they're with, stuff like that. Kind of a really mini maker fair, the size of a small parking lot, basically. But they're having like an open house and everything. If you get your maker box, if you subscribe to Maker Box, you can actually pick up your maker box rather than having it shipped to you if you're there on Sunday. So is anybody going to that on Sunday?
I'm going. I wasn't aware it was that large. I thought it was just like their meetup where you just sit at a round table.
It's taking the place of this month's meetup, basically.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool.
If anybody wants to look up details for it, look up what is the meetup group called, John? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, if you give me a minute, I can bring the link up.
Unfortunately, it's a little far for us.
It's on MakerBox on Twitter.
It's not on the top of my head.
Glenn, you guys can make it. There's no excuse.
Yeah, but it'd be like I'd drive up there and back, and I'd almost be turning around and driving right back for Earth. So, but I do wanna shout out to the chat group, and I can't give away too much information because of what this project is. But if you're out there and you get the Maker Box, and you could shoot a say 30-second video, and you want to be involved in one of my projects that will be on my YouTube channel, please reach out to me, Glenn, Glenn, 2 N's in Glenn, at funking3d.com. I would love to have everybody participate, but if I give you the details, you have to be sworn to secrecy.
I posted the link, mate.
Did you? Okay, yeah, it's on meetup.com. It's the North Delaware 3D Printing Meetup by Printed Solid.
Wait. What did I post? Did I post the correct thing?
Yep, looks like it.
Can you check?
Sure, hang on. Where'd it go? Yeah, well, that's the topic. Hang on, I'll post the. So here's Printed Solid's meetup group. If you go to that, and then go to meetups. What the heck? Why is it not showing right? Okay, hold on. Bear with me. I'll find it.
Real quick, Tony Ryan, just so you know, maybe he has, and it just hasn't been released yet.
Tony Ryan says it's an epic photo with me and Matt mashup. I want to ask Ron to do it. It'll be done by tomorrow morning. Watch.
Notification. Sorry, I'm having trouble finding this now. I just had it pulled up a minute ago.
Yeah, Robbie Mack, he's very tired, and he gets to be kind of an annoying pain in the butt when he's tired. So.
Okay, so the link that John posted is actually the right one. I'm just going to repost it here to take away any confusion. That is the right one, but for some reason the details aren't showing right. It's showing like the default details, but this is for the mini MakerFest 2nd year anniversary deal that they're doing on Sunday. So, but yeah, so I'll be there. John will be there. If anybody else is around and wants to stop in, I know Matt would prefer everybody respond on the meetup.com just so he has an idea how many people are coming. And then, of course, we have Earth coming up in just over a month on June
24th, 25th, and 26th, I think.
22nd, 23rd, 24th. 23rd and 24th are the official days. 22nd's the setup day.
Right. So don't anybody show up for that. I'll be there.
Yeah, I'm waiting. My work kind of screwing things up a little bit. Our on-call rotation may very well be changing, and I won't know until the first week of June. But if it changes, I'll be on call during Earth, which kind of sucks. So that may change my availability of being down there. But I was planning on taking off work on that Friday and going down and helping them get things set up and just hanging out.
Well, I'll be there. We're leaving late Thursday night, early Friday morning. So we may leave at like 11 p.m. Thursday night, or maybe midnight or whatever. Xander will actually be at camp that week, so we're pulling him out at the end of the day on Thursday, which is like 11 o'clock at night. We're pulling him out and then leaving from there. So we'll be there sometime midday on Friday, and I'll be wrecked and exhausted, but that's what these events are all about, right?
I'll be down there on Thursday, so if anyone knows anything fun to do down there, hit me up.
And Glenn, to your comment about being exhausted by the time you get there, that has been me so far to every Maker Faire that we've gone to. Nova, New York. Nova's not quite as bad, but New York, heck, that one, I drove up. I worked all day Thursday, drove to New York Thursday night for the Matter Hackers meetup. Turned around, drove home, never did get to sleep. I got home, I changed clothes, and I went to work. Worked all day, got off, came home, picked up my wife and daughters, and we turned around and drove back to New York for Maker Faire. Earth, we drove through the night. We left at 9 o'clock Friday night, got there at like 7 o'clock, 7:30, something like that. Got into Indiana, and I didn't go to bed till 2 o'clock in the morning, I think, Saturday. So I can appreciate the being exhausted by the time you get there.
Murph Drive was a nice 14 and a half hours for me, so.
Yeah. I mean, 9.5 definitely wasn't anything to complain about compared to what a lot of people did. But
ain't you close to Ron?
What's up?
I'm asking Mike if he's close to Ron.
Which Ron?
Motoring. Ron, brew it, blast it, blow it, build it.
Don't know. I mean, I'm in Massachusetts, so maybe.
Oh, you're in Massachusetts. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I forgot.
Ron's in New York, and
yeah, I forgot you were. I thought you were in New York.
Uncle Ron. Then you don't have to say brew it, build it, blast it, print it, fold it.
Fold it.
Oh, there he is in the chat. Look at that.
Yep. Yeah, there he is.
I always call him make it, bake it, break it, run. No, he's Uncle Ron.
Robbie Mack, it's not about dedication. It's just about the community. We have an awesome community that makes it worth.
Oh, well, not only that, but I mean, if you've never been to, Maker Faire in New York was fun, but Murph was amazing.
Yeah.
It's just so hyper focused on 3D printing.
Well, it's
Until
not
the
even so
lights
much
go out.
the 3D print; it's the people.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, okay, yeah. So,
we're all
right,
there
yeah,
for
you're right.
one reason. We all have one thing in common.
Tacos.
You know, it's just amazing. So
Yeah, we like to melt plastic.
right, lots of it.
You put how many people? I think they had, what was it, 1,700 people signed up for tickets for Murph, and way more than that showed up.
Yep.
And
It was 1,500 that they said, right?
1,500 is what they pre-sold, so to speak. It was free, but they pre-sold 1,500 tickets on Eventbrite, and it was way more people than that showed up. And you figure it was that many people, even 1,500 people, all focusing on 3D printing. Like, that alone is amazing.
in 10,000 square feet.
Yeah.
It was
There was a couple of places around there that were like extremely packed. Like you couldn't barely walk through the aisles.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely had to have patience, but it was like, you know, if you put that many people at a flea market, you know, people are always rude to each other. That many 3D printing people in that building, and everybody was real cool. At least I didn't see any issues, you know.
Right.
Nope. I think John Mack was the biggest problem.
John Mack was the big problem.
He knows
was
I'm
the
kidding.
heckler of the crowd. Yeah, so anybody who didn't get to go to Murph, if you're out on the East Coast and it just wasn't in the cards, this is the first year for Earth, so none of us know yet how things are going to go. But look, you've got the community of people on this stream. You've got the community on Facebook, on Twitter, that supports each other, and we're all there for each other. We're a large majority of us are going to be there at Earth, and that alone is a good reason to come, is just to come and hang out. But even if you don't get to see anything new and exciting, which I have a hard time believing that won't happen either, but just come and hang out.
Yeah, well, even if every display, which isn't going to happen, but if every display that was at Murph was at Earth, if it was literally the same show in both places, you're going to have different conversations. You're going to learn different things. You're going to, you know, I mean, they're a couple months apart. Your interest, your curiosity has changed to a different thing. So, and I mean, I walked Murph. I didn't see everything. There was a lot of stuff that I missed.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I missed all of the exhibits at Murph. Watching everybody's review videos, I feel like I missed it all, except for the BFG.
I was able to leave twice from our booth 3 times on the second day. And that was just to go pee real quick. Other than that, I was pretty much running by and going, oh, that's cool. All right, gotta get back.
Well, you know, Mike, there's enough of us there that don't have tables and stuff that would be more than willing to stand behind your table for 15, 20 minutes or whatever, so that you would have a chance to go and stretch your legs and see things. And, you know, I mean, you don't have to feel like you're a prisoner.
It was one of my first times of really putting on all my stuff on display. I did do Make a Fair before, but it was really just a last minute, hey, this is my stuff. But it was just a lot of more nerves of leaving the booth. But it was Make a Fair versus Murph, and definitely going to be Earth too. It's a big difference in the form of, like you said, Earth and Murph are more of a come hang out, have fun, learn some new things, but you get to hang out and actually talk with real people. Make a Fair, I feel more like they say, it's a big giant science fair. Come look at what we're designing, what we're making. Still fun.
Oh yeah, definitely fun. Well, you had a much better setup at Murph than you did at New York Maker Fair too, but
and Earth's going to be even better. Yeah.
Well, I just mean like physical location. They kind of stuck you away from everybody at New York Maker Fair. You had a good view of the Power Wheels racing, but and it was so hot. I mean, and that's coming from a Florida guy. It was so hot at New York Maker Fair.
I had to close up the cabinet a couple of times just to keep everything cool.
one thing I wanted to say real quick, and I don't want to cause anything from saying this, but if anybody is considering purchasing shirts for the Friday night hangouts, hold off on that. There may be a change coming. So hold off on buying any shirts. Just to put that out there for anybody.
The say that again. The Friday 3D.
The community hangout shirts.
Yeah.
On March Minion, hold off on making any purchases for
Okay.
right now. If anybody's considering it in the chat, streamers, whatever. And if you hear of anybody, do me a favor and just privately ask them to hold off for a second. And if they have any questions, tell them to get in touch with me.
Okay.
Sorry, you guys just made me think of it as we were talking about it.
That's all right. That's how we get the information out there.
I wanted to say it earlier and totally forgot.
Sean wants to know if it was hotter than the Gainesville Maker Faire. Absolutely, it was.
New York? Oh my gosh!
I'm telling you, Sean, it was unbelievably hot. I went and found Matt at the printed solid booth and begged him for a hat because my head was burning. It was unbelievably hot.
It was even. I mean, August, September, you're hitting our average summer weather up here at that time of year, and it was way above average at Maker.
Yeah, well, it was late. It was late September because it was at Xander's birthday time. It was right before Xander's birthday, which is the 26th. So it was at the end of September. So and you know, I mean, we live closer to the equator. It's normally a lot hotter down here, and that was just killing me. That was killing me.
Joseph Purso's train that
Oh yeah,
Daniel Noré made for him actually melted in the heat.
Tony Ryan said, "Good thing you have a black T-shirt for the heat." Absolutely.
Oh boy.
The next outdoor event, I'll have yellow T-shirts.
Black. It looks cool until you're in the sun.
Right. No, it's all about branding. Gotta put up with the heat so that people recognize you.
I recognize Xander right away at Maker Faire.
Well, it's so funny because, you know, going into Maker Faire in New York, he kept talking about how he wants to get selfies with everybody. People are going to want selfies with him because he's a YouTube star. And I'm like, dude, don't get your hopes up. Nobody's going to recognize you. You know, we're a little tiny channel. We were still at, you know, under the 300 mark at that point. And we weren't 15 feet into Maker Faire and somebody yelled, "Fun King!" And I thought, there is no way. I mean, I wear it and blazing on my body. It was huge on the back of my shirt and stuff. But, I mean, still. Robbie Mack said maybe we can collab an Elvis wig in black for Glenn. I'd take that. I'm not going to put my dreadlocks on, though, because they make me itchy.
Oh, my. Yeah, I can't wait for Earth. So, Mike, so you are coming to Earth?
Yes, I am, and I'll be actually giving away some goodies in a raffle while I'm down there.
That's it. You guys heard it.
Oh, yeah.
On the Friday night 3D printing community hangout, Mike's giving away the BFG at Earth.
No.
I didn't say the big one. We're just going to make a little one.
It's a mini one.
No, Matt, he's going to give away a do-it-yourself kit. He's going to give away 50 rolls of filament. So you can do your own.
Actually, IC3D is actually providing 3 rolls of filament to be giving away. So
I love IC3D's filament, and Sean has been nothing but awesome over there. So
well, I reached out. It was Sean that I reached out to, and they're the ones that are actually providing my. This is a little peek of my new project, and they provided all the plastic for my new project.
Nice.
Yeah, he ended up sending me these giant rolls, the 5-pounders. And
Uncle Ron just got a 10-pound roll.
A 10-pound roll.
Yeah. So, but yeah, all of the natural PETG parts in this bag are IC3D, and they mean a lot to me because there was only 2 rolls of that ever produced, and I got one. That's my claim to fame. I know you've all heard that story before, but I'm gonna keep telling it.
I haven't heard it. I haven't heard it. Can you say it? Can you tell us?
Really, you didn't hear it?
I haven't heard of it myself either.
Oh, I thought you were kind of being facetious because
No, actually, it wasn't. No.
Oh yeah, no. Sean, I talked to Sean at Murph, and they were all out of the free rolls of filament. And he's like, dude, I really want to get you a roll of filament. I'm going to mail you some. And I said, that's great. I'll take some. So he sent me actually 2 rolls, and he emailed me and told me that there was a surprise in the box, and he didn't tell me what it was. And it turned out to be a roll of natural PETG, because they had only made PLA up to that point. And it was their first batch of PETG they had ever done. And it is fantastic. It prints. I mean, the camera's not going to do it any justice, but it prints like butter. It is just amazing filament. And the sad part was, when I decided what to do with it, because at first it was like that magical baby that you don't want to do anything with until it's the right project. And I had printed a test piece that I've tried to break by hand a couple of times, and I can't break it. And I thought, the MPCNC, that's what I'm going to do with this filament. And I started printing parts, and then I realized that it takes 2 kilos of filament to print that CNC machine, and I only had 1 kilo, and there wasn't another kilo to be had. And and he said, he asked me, he goes like, how much more do you need? Maybe I can snip a little off the other roll. And I said, it takes like 1.8 total. And I'm like, don't do it. Like, let somebody else enjoy that. So I ended up making the other half of it out of Hatchbox. But I'm so looking forward to them finally producing this, because this is good. This is good stuff. It's really good stuff. So. No,
that's good. Yeah.
Those are PLA. But I mean, my big claim to fame is the fact that there was only 2 rolls of this ever made, and I got one.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that makes me kind of special. And nobody can compare. Like, nobody can say, oh, no, it sucks. I tried it and I didn't like it, because nobody else can try it.
But Tony Ryan wanted to know in the chat, once you put the MPCNC together, which tool head will you be using for it?
I'm going to go with the DeWalt router that they recommend. I'm a big fan of DeWalt tools.
You want to get a spindle?
For the cost difference, I don't know.
Let me tell you. I got a router for it, and the run out is too high. If you go with a spindle, the run out will be way less.
All right,
like magnitudes less. And I think you can get 1.5 kilowatt spindle that'll be equivalent to that. And it runs really quiet. Like, the only noise you hear is going to be the steppers and the cutter head, and maybe a little bit of whining from the spindle.
But cost-wise, I mean, I can pick that DeWalt up for like $50.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if you're looking to save costs, yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm a small channel, and I'm,
No, I understand. Yeah.
I have a lot of mouths to feed in this house, and they eat a lot.
Now you have an engineering buddy.
I'm gonna have to look back at my YouTube watch history. There was a video popped up this evening when I got home, because, of course, looking into the MPCNC, somebody just put a video out that they completed their MPCNC. They used a spindle. It was a Chinese spindle with a Toshiba control board. Instead of using the ramps or some of the other recommended ones, they used a Toshiba board that's driving their steppers, driving the spindle, driving everything. And then they used 26 pound or what the heck are they? 26-inch torque NEMA 17 steppers. And with this Toshiba driver, you couldn't hear them on the video. And the guy put his camera right up against the stepper, and you could not hear that stepper running.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a CNC machine.
I know.
The steppers aren't going to be the issue.
Once it's chipping through material, yeah, you're going to hear it screaming.
Yeah. I don't know how quiet I need my CNC machine to be. It's going to be out in the big garage anyway, so I don't really care. But Uncle Ron sent me this kit, and I haven't looked in to see if it's going to work, but it's an Arduino Uno with the stepper controller. So like it's a CNC kit, but I don't know if it's going to work for that.
Ah, okay.
for that yet. I haven't looked. I just got that through Mailbag Monday. Came in as one of those anonymous packages, but at least he was kind enough to put a note inside. So.
And then the other thing too from the chat, just catching up on questions that I've seen popping by. J.R. Slater Photography wanted to know if Mike prints anything little.
Not anymore.
Hang on, he's got to move all the big stuff out of the way to find something little.
Funny enough, one of the only small print things is actually for my airbrush. And it's one of the only practical things I printed too, for a little mason jar to clear out the airbrush. That's about it.
But he printed that little thing so that it makes his big things better.
Yep.
Done smaller prop styles like hammers and smaller axes. I don't have any right now, but
your throwing knives that you print are on the smaller.
Oh yeah, there's somewhere. Like right now, actually, I'm printing out a mace right now, and the little even the fins for it are a practical size for it. I mean, I can't always print big. I want to always print big, but it has to be. I just need to end up renting a U-Haul trailer, the large tractor trailer soon, to bring this anywhere if I keep doing it like that.
It's so funny to me how that's kind of the trend in 3D printing is well, I can print this, but I can print it bigger. And it's always about bigger.
Yeah, the 3D printing content has gone like two different ways. Either you print it humongous or you print it as small as you possibly can.
Well, even with like the fluidic model, like I printed this for the first Murph I went to, and I had everyone who was at Murph, or at least try and get everyone to sign it. That was pretty much my signature pad for it. So it was actually a somewhat useful print.
Everybody's
I was just looking at those spindles that you posted, John, and that's crazy. $643 for a,
wait, what I just posted was $643.
Yeah, the
That's not the right
1.5 kilowatt spindle.
It was the link.
BFD kit.
It uses diamond bearings. It's okay.
The one I was looking at was 181.
I was going to say
that's for just the spindle motor. But the kit with the VFD the control or the VFD is $643.
Oh yeah, John, you got to click on package include and select the kit. So if you want,
it's the new base.
Okay.
Yeah,
I got you.
Yeah, they always advertise things for 10 cents, but if it's actually the item in the picture, then it's $95.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just couldn't see putting that on a cheap home built CNC machine.
Yeah, something I'm not on a home CNC machine. Even on some of the purchase CNC machines, a VFD for a home user.
Yeah, I'm not really looking for. I mean, I guess once I have it and I start to pick out other uses for it, but I wanted a desktop one so that I could start cutting PC boards, which I don't even know if that's worth it anymore. As cheap as you can buy, quality manufactured PC boards, but. I've never had a CNC machine, and I thought, well, it'd be cool to build one, and I don't own one, so I should have one. But I don't want to spend $1 bazillion. I want to build it as cheaply as possible and just make something come out of it.
Yeah, that's the whole point of for the most part, what we do is doing it ourselves and economically doing it as well. I mean, you can always build up to, like, if you're going to start out with the DeWalt head. You can they have all these different attachments for the MPCNC, from anything from a pencil up to, 3D printing heads,
lasers,
all kinds of crap.
Well, and, I'm thinking if it works out, I'd like to try to adapt a plasma cutter head to it and see if I can cut steel with it. I mean, obviously it'll need a different base.
That's what I want to
cut
do
on wood, but
yeah, I definitely want to do that.
I mean, I looked at in a past life when I had money, I looked at buying a plasma cam table, and the only reason that I backed out of doing it was because I couldn't come up with a way to make money with it to justify owning it without it just having to dedicate all my time to it. You know, I wanted something I could play with just on the weekends, make a couple dollars off of it to justify owning it, and because it was like $10,000.
Wait, you can make money doing this kind of stuff?
People have told me that, but I don't.
In honesty, I think I've only done like 3 or 4 projects for people, and they were small things for like college students. Other than that, all this just comes out of me being bored and not want to play video games 24/7.
I have one that I'm working on right now. The guy's supposed to be dropping off a part for it. He's into tractor pulling tractors, not like well, he does look at like the big like John Deeres and stuff that people modify for pulling the sleds. But he also does like lawnmower tractor pull competitions and stuff. I'm taking a cooler that he has, one of the ones that has like the A-frame cooler, so to speak. It's got the angled top, making pieces that attach to it, designing them and everything, so he can take a wagon, like a radio flyer wagon, and convert it into a hot rod tractor pull model for his daughter to ride in when they go to the tractor pulls and stuff. I'm taking this cooler and making it look like an engine, all bolt-on pieces and everything. So the cooler will still be a cooler when it's all said and done, and you'll actually pick the head off the engine to get into the cooler. That's got to happen in the next 2 weeks. He's supposed to be dropping the cooler off this weekend, so I can get measurements and get modeling and printing that. It won't take me much to do it, but I mean, right now we're talking right about $150 for that, and really, I mean, less than a spool of plastic. It's just the time to do everything.
Yeah, time and money. Those seem to be the 2 big hang-ups. I told James from Print and Play today that I would definitely have more fun in life if money was no object.
I think we can all agree to that.
All right, I think I'm going to hang it up.
I think I'm about ready to do the same. I'm losing my voice.
All right, well, thanks to everybody in the chat and everybody who came on and streamed tonight. Yeah,
absolutely. I think it was a good topic. I think we got some good information out of it. And now I have some homework to do.
Hey, your design, Glenn, for your MPCNC, did you make your project public, or are you just basing it on somebody else's?
No. I didn't design the CNC. I forget who does it. It's the mostly printed CNC. It's a legitimate project that's out there.
Yeah. So you're using the I forget. It's a weird name for the website.
Yeah, it begins with a V.
Yeah. You're using that one for calculating it.
Yeah.
What size are you doing?
I did the C. I think it's the C one.
2x4.
It's the regular 3/4 inch.
No, but I mean 2 foot by 4 foot.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna do it 2 foot by 4 foot. I know that they say that you should build it 2x2. Anything over 2x3 requires extra support or whatever. But I'm gonna shoot for the 2x4 and see how it goes. And if it doesn't work out, I'll figure it out. Because I'm thinking I could put a piece of flat bar stock down the length of the pipe to make it more rigid if I have to.
Sure. That was one of the things they were recommending to people to do, is if you go bigger and stick with 3/4 inch, putting something solid through the pipe, just enough room for the wire. The other thing is stepping up from 3/4 to 1 inch electrical conduit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it doesn't work, I don't mind building it as even a 2x2. I just figured the 4 foot would give me a few more options.
Yeah, the 4 foot definitely will. Please go bigger, because I built mine 2x3, and my cutting area is only 15 inch by. Actually, it's 2x4, but my cutting area is 15 by 36.
Well, I didn't think about the fact that it's not actually going to cut all the way to the outside.
Right. So you might want to go. I don't know how much space you have, but you might want to go 3 foot wide.
I have a 4,000 square foot garage.
Oh, so you're okay.
I thought about building that low boy one and making it 4x8, but I don't want to have to work around it. I want something I can move.
No, so here's the issue I have. Like when somebody wants me to build something, I'm like, okay, that's great. But now I got to think about piecing it up and then gluing it together based on the way I constructed it. So now I have to like cut off the gantry and redesign it so that the gantry can travel beyond the extents of the spoil board, so I can have a full cutting area. So yeah, consider that.
I think with the MPCNC though, the dimensions they're giving is the cutting area on that. I don't. That's not.
If it is, that's cool.
Yeah, I don't think that's actually the unit dimension. I think that's actually cutting area dimension.
I'll have to look into that. Yeah, I didn't consider that. So again, you know, I mean, I've never owned one. I've always wanted like a legit CNC machine for CNCing metal, but just never got around to buying one. I almost bought a metal cutting lathe. I played with one in high school, almost bought one, and then I couldn't, not that if I had one, I wouldn't find a use for it, but like there wasn't something in my head that said, I need to own, you know, I'm 45 years old and I've never needed it. So yeah, I don't know. This was really just kind of to be a fun project to see if I could do it. So plus I want to put a laser on it.
Yep. That's the coolest thing about that is just the compatibility with different heads, different tools.
Yeah, I want to laser me some stuff. I mean, I know that it won't be like the greatest laser, but I know a guy that's got one of those, so
yeah.
I tried to get him to laser me some aluminum, but apparently the machine didn't handle it too well. So
yeah, there's a bit I want to share with you. I'll look it up in my order history. A bit that you should get.
Oh, okay.
Oh, a cutting bit?
Yeah.
Tony Ryan said that the MPCNC is the size given for the frame. You lose 8 inches from each dimension.
Yes, that's what I'm
okay, so if you push it up,
just add 8 inches to both sides.
Which, I mean, with the MPCNC, now, Glenn, with you maxing out the 3/4 inch, or kind of going above what the recommended max is, one of the nice things about that whole setup is, you know, if you build say a 2x2 and decide, you know what, I want to go a little bit bigger, I want to get 2x3, all you really need is longer belts and to pick up some more conduit, and now you can increase the size of it. So that's one of the
longer conduit, extend the wires and the belts is really the biggest issue.
Cost to increase the size.
Yeah, but it's a matter of making it strong enough. But
yeah.
I mean, my pseudo brother-in-law, he's a welder by trade. They build stainless steel kitchens, so I'm sure that I could come up with something. I mean, I could have them bend me angled stainless that fits right inside the conduit to make it more rigid.
Yep.
Uncle Ron said laser to make the cat chase around. Yeah, I think that's the wrong kind of laser.
So that bit I just shared is one for doing. You have to buy a different bit for doing the rough cut, but then you'll use this bit for finishing.
Oh, look at that!
And it does like
$52. That's a quarter of the cost of the whole project. No.
Well, when you're getting the CNC, you're probably going to spend about $4,000 on cutters and everything else when you're done.
And stuff. Yeah,
for sure. I easily spent that. So.
Oh, those are really pretty.
Yeah. So,
sorry, John.
You could do detailed work with that. It'll you could do like a piece of oak, no problem with that bit.
Yeah, I'd like to get to the point where I can cut aluminum. That's a big one for me.
Yeah, and that's so the reason why I'm saying go with the spindle is for that reason, because the spindle you can control the speed.
Yeah.
On the DeWalt, you have a limited range if you get the variable speed one. Like typically, it's like 8,000 or 10,000 up to a little bit higher, and you want to change your feed rate and all that stuff and the cutter speed to match and the number of flute. You can kind of control it a little bit by changing your number of flutes that you use.
Yeah, from what I was reading with the MPCNC, everybody says a one flute for cutting aluminum with it.
Yeah. So because if you do 2 flutes, now you're doing 2 cuts with 1 revolution,
right?
And you end up jamming it up, and you have they call it a multi-cutting or something, where the chips get caught in between the bit and the workpiece. And
right. Tony Ryan said the trick to milling aluminum is keeping the part and chips cool. Hot parts and plastic, not a good deal.
Yeah. And you want the chips to be ejected away too. So if you have a blast of air, if that's what he's talking about, if you have compressed air, they got the adjustable.
Flip
tubes.
it upside down, mill upside down.
Yeah, you can do it that way too.
Put it on the wall.
Glenn, what is your estimated cost so far that you've figured into the MPCNC?
Well, I haven't really targeted. Somebody said it's about $400. I think that was Jeffrey in the chat just said that the cost was about $400.
That I think, from what I was reading, I think that price included if you had to buy something like an ANET or something. You didn't have a 3D printer already.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they have a. It's Viscous One is the company. That was Tony Ryan a bit ago. Robbie Mack said, "Dude, 4,000 square feet." Yes, 40 by 100.
That's yeah. I mean, that's a typical 2-car garage, though, right?
I have.
Oh, you're 4,000.
I have 2 cars in there.
Yeah. 4,000 is kind of large, right?
It's huge. It's huge. The story is that when we went to move here, I was moving out of a house that had a oversized 2-car garage. You could actually put 3 cars in it, 1 this way and 2 in this way. And so we decided we were going to build a new home. So I said to my wife, if we're going to build a new home, I want a bigger garage. You know, I got to outdo the last one. And so I started looking into steel buildings, and the prices were good because steel wasn't outrageous back then. And so I picked a 30 by 60 and then realized that that was a weird depth. So I went 40. So the garage was going to be 40 by 60. And then we invited my dad to move with us up here, and he had a RV. So we added another 20-foot section to the building and put a 12 by 12 door on for his RV, so he could live in the RV in the garage while he was here and then travel when he wanted to go. And we were flipping houses at the time, and I was making just stupid, ridiculous money. I was making $10,000 to $12,000 a month legally. And so I said to my wife, I said, you know, it's only another $5,000 for another 20 feet. And she said, well, go ahead and do it. That wasn't counting the concrete, by the way. And so it ended up at 100 feet long. So it's 40 by 100. And if I went back to do it again, I would have made it 50 feet deep. But
yeah, you always need more room. Yeah, that's a cool story. Yeah.
It's a magnificent garage. My house is 1,550 square foot footprint. You know, like the footprint of the house is 1,550 square feet, and the garage is 4,000. So
Robbie said that he would kill for a 4,000 square foot garage.
Yeah, most people will. But you know, the garage was like right about $30,000 for the building, which to me is cheap for that size building. And then it was almost another $20,000 for the concrete underneath it.
But that was your cost building it.
No, I wasn't in the construction field back then.
Oh, so that was a contractor. So
yeah,
if you did it yourself, it would be like a third, probably.
Probably half. I mean, there's 92 yards of concrete in the slab, and concrete's right about $110 bucks. About $110, yeah. So, but
Tony Ryan said the price for the MPCNC was $450, including filament, to print all the parts. And so that was with already having the 3D printer.
$450 including what? Including the filament.
Including the filament. He's got the DeWalt variable speed, I believe. So everything minus the printer was $450.
Yeah. Well, I haven't really started discussing that. I didn't want the wife to know. because the other project that I'm working on is not going to be cheap. So
that's why I'm going to start small with my MPCNC. I'm going to redo my camera slider I'm going to remake the MPCNC using some of its parts and make a camera slider out of it. Just
like full access, like where you can move it.
No, not again. To start, I'm going to just do
just
one access
linear. Yeah. You don't think it wouldn't be cheaper to do that with vSlot?
vSlot, I've thought about it. My camera slider that I designed last year uses 3/4 inch aluminum. It's aluminum refrigeration piping, just because that's what I have access to.
Right.
So it's 2 rails that it rides on, but it's collapsible. It'll go from, it's about 3 feet long when it's collapsed, and it can go out to 6 feet. It can double in size by extending the tubing out. So for portability, when I go to the Outer Banks and stuff or travel and I want to take the slider with me, that's why I don't want to use the vSlot, because I'm at a fixed size and can't pack it down if I want to. So like the MPCNC just has the design's nicer than what I designed, and I think it would work smoother. So I want to steal some of their parts and kind of post a remake to Thingiverse for a camera slider using their hardware.
So the chat, surf at Glenn's garage. My whole property could almost fit in Glenn's garage. GlenCon 18. Gulf Coast Rep Rap Festival.
GlenCon 18. That's where it's at.
There you go.
Everyone has to wear black in August.
Oh gosh.
I typically don't even work in the garage through the summer. It's so bloody hot out there.
And I do
garage and no AC.
Yeah, right.
No, it would cost a fortune to cool that. I have there's an apartment built in there now in the space that was going to be my dad's area for his RV. My dad ended up getting married and moving to Georgia, so he never actually lived in there. But we ended up building a mother-in-law apartment for my wife's mom, and she lived in there up until about just over a year ago, and she moved back to South Florida. And now my mom is living in there while she's building her new place. So I've considered once that's done, I've considered moving all the studio down into that space. But my hang up is that I would want my printers in the studio, but I like my printers here because this is where I work. So like when I'm working during the day, I can print stuff. So I either have to buy 2 of every printer I own, so I can have 1 in each location, or I got to come up with a different solution. So we're thinking maybe we'll just turn that into like a game room or something. I don't think swamp coolers mix with filaments.
Right. Well,
swamp coolers add humidity, but
I'm out of here, guys.
What's that?
I'm out of here.
All right,
Thanks.
me too.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
See you, everybody.
Good night, everybody in chat. Appreciate
Good
you guys
night.
being here.
Night all.